All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is almost time for NASCAR Cup Series action to begin this weekend at Circuit of the Americas for this weekend's running of the EchoPark Automotive Grand Prix. Third race of the season, our first road course race of 2025, our first non-super speedway or drafting track race as well. And we are getting set for action here in just a couple of minutes. Multiple practice sessions will be had for all these teams, obviously timed, and then we will have the time trials slash qualifying immediately following practice. That will be the case for most of the season. We haven't really seen that much this year because of how Speed Weeks was laid out with multiple 50-minute practice sessions throughout the week. Qualifying on the Wednesday night before the 500. Last week there was no practice at all for any of the top three series, but this week there will be a lot of it. New layout here at COTA, going to be using the 2.3 mile circuits versus the original 3.4, I believe, mile circuit, or about 3.5 mile circuits from years past. This is going to be the fifth race at Circuit of the Americas for the NASCAR Cup Series already. Hard to believe. Feels like we've only been going here a couple of times. But yeah, I can't wait. Cars are on the track right now. As you see, green flag has been displayed for about a minute or so. Nobody has completed a lap, but cars are currently getting up to speed, cleaning their tires off from leaving pit road. And I would imagine pretty much everybody's going to be out on the racetrack at the same time, especially for these early minutes of practice. One open entry this week. It's a big one. Conor Zilisch in the 87 for Trackhouse Racing. Of course, phenom in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, especially when it comes to road courses. Got his first career win on a road course last season at Watkins Glen at the Xfinity Series level. And I'm curious to see what he could do here this weekend. I did put up an early poll in the chat for who you think is going to qualify the best out of four drivers for when qualifying takes place. And we'll leave this poll open for the next couple of hours, even into qualifying. And once we get through round one into round two of the knockout qualifying, we'll end up seeing later. Then we will close the poll. So it's going to be open for a minute. Got 10 votes already. Kyle Larson leading with Shane Van Gisbergen at 40%. William Byron 20%. Conor Zilisch doesn't have any of the votes yet. And again, that is for qualifying specifically for here today. If you're wondering for visual purposes where you can watch practice and qualifying this weekend for the NASCAR Cup Series, Amazon Prime, once again, second consecutive week that is the case. Still waiting for our first lap time to spot in. A lot of drivers getting to the start-finish line for the first time to begin their practice session, but not completing their lap as of right now. Let you listen into some of the broadcasts. 17 minutes on the clock. We have groups for practice for the road courses this year because they will qualify in groups as well. Knockout qualifying has been eliminated for the intermediate tracks, but we see it on the super speedways and road courses still. But for the road courses, it's different because it is group qualifying like we've seen in years past. That has not changed. So they will be practicing in groups as well. And each of these groups will have two 20-minute sessions to try to dial their cars in before qualifying here in a little bit.
That big tire stack at the side of the corner. Yeah, you don't want to be in that, and that's that dive bomb, right? On the restarts and stuff like that, they're going to be fanned out. Do not be in that. It'll end your day. Yeah, with the rodeo, you'd have a cloud pop up out of there. Yeah, well, I'm not getting in it. Go ahead, knock yourself out. Hey, see if Regan will go down there and cover practice from that tire. You see Conor Zilisch going by right there, making his Cup debut, and a lot of laps in the Xfinity car yesterday. They spent a lot of time off the racetrack, so to speak, Kevin. They use a lot of real estate up here. Yeah, and what happens as you go outside of the curbing, off those exits and entrances of the corners, it actually gets grippier as we go through the day. That paint will actually get stickier. So keep an eye on this young man because 18-year-old Conor Zilisch, well, he won his first Xfinity Series start last year and came in here yesterday, practiced almost 2 seconds faster than the Xfinity field,
Yeah.
and went out and put his car on the pole. He's making his Cup Series debut, the second youngest driver to ever do so, and he is a talent. He really is, and this is really where he's going to shine. He's a world class road racer. Still has a lot of things to learn on the ovals, but when we get to these types of racetracks, and especially here, you're really going to be able to see the lap time and things that he can do. But this is definitely the most difficult crowd of guys that he'll have ever raced, for sure. Well, he's stacking up against a pretty good fourth already, first lap. Not too shabby. Some people right there, 139.9, P1. That's one thing I noticed about him. Not a lot of wasted effort. Very, very disciplined. They said just a little bit off of P1 there, and that's Bowman, Alex Bowman up there. You can see it on the pylon, but transitioning from that Xfinity car just to that, I'm going to tell you, that's the speed right there. Nothing more than just the difference in the car. I bet you this second lap, things will change for
well, and just remember, he hasn't driven the car.
That's what I mean.
So on the racetrack, and you do a lot of simulation work, but Alex Bowman has been really good, as you see him go off in the dirt right there, off the exit of turn 20, coming onto the front straightaway.
Told you it went faster. He matched that speed at Bowman pretty close, but they went faster yet. How about SVG to the top of the board? Well, no surprise, no.
Well, think about the Trackhouse group, and you'll see Ross Chastain in the next group, but you've got SVG, you've got Conor Zilisch, you've Daniel Suarez, all really good road racers. And I think when you have those good road racers and are able to put all those guys in the simulator, we saw it with Junior Motorsports yesterday, it makes the rest of the team better too.
You bring up a great point. I want to be in that second group here, right? When you're splitting these groups up, I want and you said it, Ross Chastain's up there grinning from ear to ear. He knows his teammate, his equipment's going to be good. Now I just got to go out and do the same job that SVG's doing behind the wheel. That's quite a bit too, 138.86 to the other second bracket for everybody else. Austin Cindric, one of the Cup Series most experienced road racers, had a lot of time in lesser divisions before he came to the Cup Series, racing in America and Europe.
Yeah, and as much as we've talked about these Fords the first couple of weeks on the super speedways, this has definitely not been their strong suit as far as road racing and the things that have happened here at COTA. So it'll be interesting to see where that all stacks up from the speed standpoint. But Austin Cindric does a great job behind the wheel on these road courses.
So road race fans are very comfortable with the concept of track limits. NASCAR, let's say, is not. Seeing track limits in the S's, and if you have 4 tires below the red and white curving, that is off track. Cody Ware with an issue here. That is off track. Exactly what you speak of. Let's check with Josh Sims. I'm out here with Tyler Reddick, one of just 3 drivers to finish top 10 at all 4 starts here. What are you looking at now as great get out? Great, right? Race. Much fall off is occurring. It'd be kind of hard to read with the other front track. But it's like
Kind of hard to hear Tyler with all the
shoot your time and good luck.
all the cars racing by.
Thank you, Josh. Well, Ross Chastain, one of the few drivers who's already turned laps here at the track, running double duty in the Xfinity Series. What have been your initial observations of the track?
A lot of change, Caitlin. It's it's changing by the minute. Yesterday, like the track walk was one thing, and then we had barriers in, then we took them out. So it's just a collaboration by everybody with NASCAR, SMI, and COTA, the track itself, to listen to the drivers. Taking those big barriers out, I think, was good. But then in turn 14 and 15, they milled the asphalt out, and now there's grass. So for our Busch Light Chevy, I'm down here all alone. I have no teammates sitting down here with me to talk to. They're all out there getting to make laps. Although I got my laps yesterday in my acceptance insurance Chevy with Junior Motorsports, which is a really cool thing to say that I'm driving for Junior Motorsports on Saturday. Today, wanting to do that since I first saw one of their cars on track in 2014. And 2025, I finally get to sit in the seat. So watching my teammates right now, the other Chevy cars, to see kind of what they think. It's been rubbing speed with me, but that's
Thank you for your time, Ross Chastain, a former winner here, of course, at COTA, guys.
Having a look at his teammate, Daniel Suarez, around turn one. Larry, seen a lot of fall off already in 4 or 5 laps here. I am too, and this is what everybody wanted to see because right now you look at Van Gisbergen in the 88 car, he's essentially run 3 laps and from lap 1 to lap 3, basically a second and a half fall off. What they want to see though, Clint, is where is it about lap 10, lap 11, how much fall off?
And we saw this same. This is a very similar tire to Watkins Glen, and we saw a lot of the same things in practice there. And then we got into the race after the racetrack got rubbered up, and that fall off kind of lessened as we went through the race. But this is a different surface, a lot different type of racetrack with the way that you have to have the wheels driving going forward. A lot of slower corners. Watkins Glen, much different style of track. This is a very technical section as we come to turn 15 right here. You see Shane just kind of split that curb on the exit. You go all the way wide. This is a very sweeping corner, turn 16. A lot of unique roll speed and throttle. Let's hear what Shane has to say.
Great ride, not working. I know. Great question. Okay, let me get in here. Struggling without a brake ride, I'll be more work on it after the check.
Yeah, and that's going to feel like they cut a couple of his fingers off because these guys, they twist on that brake knob and shove those levers back and forth to adjust the brake bias, and a lot of it has advanced to the point where they'll actually use that different brake bias every lap in different corners.
Also explains that fall off that Larry was just talking about. That fall off's real. The tires are starting to slip and slide around. He's having to adjust the brakes pretty early too, by the way. 5 laps in,
and they're going to adjust it just to adjust it as they get used to the different.
Right. Yeah, I'm with you.
You got some. You go into turn 1 and you have where the 7 car is headed right now. You go up this huge hill, so it invites you to have some super heavy braking because you see that hill right there as you're braking into the hill, and then it'll plateau off, and then you can see the elevation change right there. Go back down the hill. So there's just a lot of different styles of braking. You have a lot of options from the brake pedal to be heavy braking. You can trail out of the brake. You can have some, you have so many different corners that you have to use different styles of braking.
That shows, you see where he just has those outside tires barely on the red and white rumble strips. That's exactly how you do it. I was actually watching earlier some guys that were flirting with that pretty good. You got to stay on those rumble strips, at least with one set of the tires, right? Larry Mack?
Yeah, I just want to expand on this brake bias. And when you watch our race on Fox tomorrow, our Toyota cutaway car, we're going to show you exactly what's going on when the driver adjusts the brake bias. The car basically has 2 brake systems, a front and a rear. And if the car is loose getting in the corner under braking, you're going to crank a little more front in it. If the car's tight, doesn't turn under braking, getting in the corner, you're going to crank some rear. My experience, Kevin and Clint, you want to try to crank as much rear as you can to help it turn under braking. You just can't be loose getting in.
Well, especially with these new cars, with having, so much brake on them, as that tires wear out, you have to start moving it back. You'll lock them front tires up. Once you lock them up, it only gets worse from there.
Yeah, so this rhythm section through the S's right here is going to be very unique for where they're ending up on our screen right here in the 6 area.
Can you show me where out of bounds is?
Yeah, well, the out of bounds is going to be anything below this curb. It's going to be anything below this curb right here. So if all 4 tires are below that, it will be a penalty. So you got to keep at least some sort of tire on the outside of that curb, so that
the red and white rumble.
Yeah, so these red, you can't be below those red and white rumble strips, Clint.
Let's see how they do there. That looks pretty good, Noah Gregson.
And you want to cut it as close as you can, because really the inside of that curb will have some grip if you can. It's hard to do because you're on the verge of cutting the racetrack, but there's also grip if you can hook that lip. And you want to use as much racetrack as possible, because as you enter 6A, you want to be as far right to possible on the exit of turn 6, so you get a good run through A and B.
Also straighten some corners out.
Well, let's go out to turn 6 and Regan.
Well, Mike, very interesting out here already. You guys just mentioned how far to the right the cars are staying and enter turn 6A. But I'm seeing those, that opens up a door for a potential passing zone. Somebody wants to throw a dive bomb down into that corner. It could make it difficult on the outside car. The other thing that we're seeing a lot of already, where the transition across the old curb, as they come across the old curb, the tires are locking up almost every lap on the left side. So the left front tire locking up just a little bit. That's something to keep an eye out. I don't think it's enough to flat spot any of these tires. Lastly, when they hit the transition as they go through the middle of turn 6A, onto the old asphalt, a lot of different options on how these guys are doing it right now. You hear some guys not shifting through that short chute. You hear some guys opting to grab a gear in that section of the course. The cars on the top of the board, like Shane Van Gisbergen and Alex Bowman, they sound to me like they're staying in one gear, even getting field spin doing that.
I like what you said there, Regan, about the 6A being a passing zone and restarts. Takes me back to the old configuration, the long course, if you will. Turn 11 was much like 6A. On a restart, especially when the cars are bunched up, they really fanned out getting into that corner, and a lot of chaos ended up ensuing up there.
So we're not using turns 7 through 11 or half the straightaway from 11 to 12. This is not quite the national course if you have raced here at COTA or been here for some of the other events. There's also a short course that uses just turns 7 to 11 and a half, that straightaway. We're using a short part of it that we're calling 6 and 6A and the straightaway between. So it's an extension of what is known as the national course here, but it is unique to the NASCAR weekend.
And they didn't use the national course because there's a drain in the middle of it, and with the way that these cars would go through there, they would slam into the ground every lap. So they created this other section that is right behind that section of the national course.
You can see it right there. That was a good overall bird's eye view of how that's changed.
Yeah, what a beautiful place.
It is. This place is awesome. I mean, top notch from the time you get into the gate on the property, the time you get on the track. There you go.
There you go. Right here. He's got those 4 tires off in the green and nothing on those red and white curves, so that's a penalty.
And that penalty to be served over is a stop and go. We'll have to come to a complete stop. We see that at the Roval and other tracks, and then go.
So Larry Mack explained to us what the penalty is for shortcutting. Yeah, you're looking at turn 13 right there. If you cut track limits up there in the S's, you have to stop and go in turn 13. And then there's an access road that you have to run as well. It's just going to add a lot of time to your lap, especially if it's in qualifying in a race. But the biggest thing at the end of the race, if you cut the track limits on the last lap, it happened to Shane Van Gisbergen a year ago in Xfinity, it's a 30-second time penalty added to your final lap. He went from 2nd to 27th in the final race results. So those green stripes define the drive of shame.
The other thing that's hard about this, that's just with one car as we're showing in practice. You get out there on a restart and there's cars in a single file line. You really can't see around or through that car in front of you. Pretty easy to get that penalty.
Well, here's A.J. Allmendinger, veteran road racer, and we listened in.
No point doing that ever, man. Everything, honestly, the car is so rough. I'm sideways, just standing the rear tires, like locking tires up, like everything, honestly.
We need to be better, Kevin.
Well, that's not what you want to hear. And I think that this tire, may throw everybody for a loop. As you see the fall off and everything that is happening with these tires, the cars are obviously going to need to drive better. So in the past, well, we won't even go in the past. We're going to go now because you have new asphalt, you got a new tire, you've got all these things that you think are happening. Now you get here. Now you're going to have to abort what you were thinking for the second practice because you're probably going to need to run your second. You can hear the tires chattering on that 54 car right there. So the cars are sliding around. So we're going to have to make some adjustments to our car to make the drive good.
And I love what you just said, and I think that's key for this practice session. That is a great key for these guys to be able to come in, dissect all those problems, talk about it, make some adjustments, and go back out for second practice, if you will.
1 minute, 1-on-1 hurting.
It shows you how uphill that is. And the hardest part, like you said earlier, easy to get under braking, and it's kind of rough going up the hill, but then it plateaus off and tabletops at the top. That's when the braking pressure has to change to get set up for the corner. Kind of a blind corner.
Yeah,
as you get up there.
One thing that you can see right here, you can see this ridge right here. Okay, So a lot of times that ridge will run all the way across the racetrack right there. So as a driver, not only do you see that big hill that goes up, you're going to see where that ridge transitions. So on the entrance of the corner, you know, if you pan just a little to the left right there as well, Artie, but you can see that ridge right there, and that goes across the racetrack into turn one. So you'll kind of see a lot of these guys not follow that curve on the entry because that ridge kind of gives you something to lean on. And you'll look at a lot of these corners and you'll take that elevation and you'll take the angle of the corner. Okay, I'm driving into the hill here. I'm driving down the hill there. This corner's, you know, bank to the left.
Yeah, the tire likes
all
the
those
load,
things.
right? And the hill creates load, which creates grip. As soon as it plateaus at the top, all that goes away.
All right, Group A practice has just wrapped up. Round one, that is. Again, 2 20-minute sessions for each of these groups. So basically 2 whole practice sessions for today. Shane Van Gisbergen, top of the speed charts with a 98.855. That was his fastest lap. He did run 9 laps total. Alex Bowman is second, and he is almost 0.3 of a second off of the fastest lap that SVG had ran with a 99.144. Conor Zilisch is third. AJ Allmendinger fourth. Fifth for Austin Cindric. Daniel Suarez sixth. Seventh for Noah Gragson. Ty Gibbs 8th, Justin Haley 9th, William Byron rounds out the top 10. Chase Briscoe at 11th, Chris Buescher 12th, Josh Berry 13th, Ty Dillon 14th, Cole Custer 15th, Ryan Prix 16th, Brad Keselowski 17th, Eric Jones 18th, and Cody Ware rounds out the 19 cars that hit the racetrack. Again, 37 entries this weekend, so we will see 18 more cars hit the track for Group B as they will begin their 20-minute session. So quite a bit of fall off. I was looking at that just a little bit ago before they cut the commercial break. Shane Van Gisbergen's fastest lap was on his 5th lap. It was a... sorry, no, that is not right. I don't know why it shows that. Okay, 98.86 was on lap 2. Granted, he was having an issue with the brake bias in his car, but needless to say, the last lap he ran on lap 8 was almost 2 seconds slower, about 1.6 seconds slower a lap. And that's only over 7 laps. We get into a full fuel run, which is going to be closer to 15 plus laps. Honestly, with the shorter course, it's probably going to be over 20 laps for a full fuel run. I'm curious to see how much more the tires are going to fall as far as the lap times go and the wear on the tires. Again, a new compound that Goodyear was bringing to the racetrack, a softer tire, to allow for maybe more passing opportunities later in a run that we don't tend to see with the next-gen car on road courses very often. But yeah, we'll just have to wait, hold on, see how this plays itself out. Conor Zilisch had probably the biggest fall off of anybody. His fastest lap was a 99.28. He was third quickest overall. The last lap he ran was a 102.21. So that was quite a big difference. And all the lap times you see on screen are going to more than likely intertwine with Group B. We haven't seen this yet this year with practice, obviously, because they haven't been in groups like they are today. Again, this is only for the road courses this season that there will be group practice sessions like this. And that is because they will still have the group qualifying procedure that we see Esses on one of his laps. Notice that Daniel Suarez on the 99 did also. Probably more drivers than the camera had caught live when it actually happened. We shall see. All right, Group B is on the racetrack now. Their 20 minutes have begun. A little over a minute has been ticked off the clock. And again, once they do post their lap times, they'll intertwine with the lap times we already see on screen from what we went through in the order before. Wade, Frank Powers, and Corey Gibson, thanks for tuning in. You guys are the first in the chat down below. Thanks for watching. 25 votes in the chat poll. SVG is leading the way right now for who you think is going to qualify the best between SVG, Zilisch, Byron, or Larson. Just the 4 that I put up there. I would think that Reddick probably would be another favorite that could go out and get the poll today, but I can only put 4 names on there. So those are the four that we have. William Byron's qualified on the pole the last two races at COTA, 2023, 2024. Ryan Blaney in 22, and then the one race here at the Gen 6 car in 2021. That pole went to Tyler Reddick when he was driving for RCR in the 8 car still.
Probably the most important corner because it leads out of the longest straightaway, turn 20.
Well, this is a whole different conversation now with all the tire fall off and everything that we started in the first session. So I'm sure that most of these guys that have teammates that were in that first session will have made changes to their car, probably lowered the air pressure in the back to start working on the drive because of all the talk with all the cars up on top of the racetrack. You heard AJ Allmendinger talk about his car being not driving up on top of the racetrack, locking tires up under the brakes. So they're going to have to back up on how aggressive they are with their bump stops, their shocks and everything because they're too stiff.
You probably won't see that big lap. If it's me, I want to settle in. I want to take care of my tires here. Be good on the long run. I want to focus on my long run speed because that's what's going to get you paid tomorrow on Sunday. You heard all of that complaining from AJ Allmendinger, and he is one of the fastest 5. Think of what the fellas back behind him are saying. That's tire wear, and I love it. And they're complaining. That's good for us.
And I think that Allmendinger was probably complaining because of the fact that it was falling off so bad. He's going to be able to manhandle his car and make it go fast for a lap. But knowing where the fall off was going, it sure sounded like it got bad pretty quick.
I love what you said there about this second group. These guys had the opportunity to sit back, watch, listen to not only the other cars in the track, but their teammates literally within. So they made those air pressure adjustments and all that stuff to help them set up for longer runs, keep that grip in these tires longer.
Yeah, so you see right there, now it's Bell. Now it's Bell right there as they start to come around. Those yellow times are from the previous group. The white ones on the scoring monitor are from this session.
Yeah, what? So for a second and a half off.
It's going to be super hard to compare because the racetrack's usually faster when you first go out to the screen like that. And now these guys knows they don't need to just completely demolish their tires, probably lower air pressure, change some of the settings in the car to be a little more forgiving to the tires because now they know what the racetrack is going to be like.
Bell, McDowell, Hocevar are the 3 fastest so far, Larry. Yeah, here's my takeaway from tire fall off from the first group. I'm looking at 3 of the track house drivers, Van Gisbergen, Zilisch, and Daniel Suarez. 10 to 11 laps at 2+ seconds over the course. They ran consecutive laps. There were a few in there, like Alex Bowman, ran some laps, came in, made adjustments, went back out, but they ran 10 to 11 consecutive laps, 2+ seconds of fall off.
And that's how I would do it, Larry. I honestly, I would abort qualifying if I was surprised by that fall off and everything that happened in this first session because I would really go to work on my car for the second session with that second set of tires because now you know that those tires are no good. And you know that I feel like everybody has a lot of room to make up ground on the handling of their car. And the characteristics of what's going to happen to the car need to be known by the driver so they know the difference in gears, short shifting, whatever that may be, so that you can really create as many habits as possible that are as close as possible to race conditions.
Tyler Reddick up into the top 3 of this session. Larson fastest.
Bubba's going the wrong way.
Want you to become another bridge now. You're here.
Strange seeing Wallace in the Mobile One colors this weekend.
Would tell the guys, don't be afraid to miss a corner because it's that time that you have to find out where the limits are, push the limits in your brake zones, throttles, roll speed, whatever that is. You have to be able to find what's too far.
Spotters at the top of the hill, just below the flag, up on that scaffold, and also scattered around the course at various vantage points. If I was a spotter, I'd want to be up on that big tower, 150 feet up in the air. Interesting point of view. Kyle Larson, no longer quickest. Ross Chastain now fastest in this group at 9th overall. Let's go back to Bubba Wallace here and see what happened to the 23.
He's already spinning. I think he caught a little bit of that curve, man. He overcorrected. You see how fast that thing snapped back the other way. Did a good job of getting it spun around and underneath of him. That will not help us.
Started tank slapping.
Yes. That's a high-speed part of the corner, kind of underrated. If I was watching those cars just prior to this practice, and man, you haul the mill around that corner.
Kyle Larson up into the Fast Five.
Yeah, I mean, he's been good at it since he started. So, you know, I think he's just become one of the guys. And he's just, in a situation like this, especially when the tires start to fall off and things are, you got a new section racetrack, not really knowing what the tires are doing, it puts him in a good position to be able to, he usually adapts faster than everybody else. Regan?
Well, Kevin, you mentioned Kyle Larson. An observation of him really quick as he's coming down through the S's right now towards me. That car right now looks smoother than anybody through not only the S's, but through turns 6A, leading over to 6B. Something we need to keep an eye on, though. I know we talked about 6A helping to set up the passing zone all the way down to turn 12. Turn 6B is extremely rough. It looks like there's been some patches of asphalt put in there to allow the transition and widen out the corner from the original course. The cars look like they're going over a jump as they hit that, and if guys miss it, it's pushing them all the way to the outside of the racetrack, almost into the gravel as they come through there. So that's something Conor Zilisch mentioned to me this morning. Said keep an eye on that, and he's definitely correct. It is very rough over there.
I like what you're saying there. And again, we're talking about this tire wear. It goes back to Allmendinger. Now, he said that car was really rigid and sliding around, shattering the rear tires. Softening these things up with your shocks and your suspension a little bit, Larry, that's going to help these cars live a little bit longer, help the tires live a little bit longer. What else would you be doing, Larry? I need long run speed. Want to take care of these tires. I know you're gonna put it on me as a driver, but what can you do to help me?
Yeah, I mean, again, they're under the impound. You can't change shocks and springs and all that. You can change the adjustments on the shocks, but I think Kevin said it. Just take some of the aggressiveness away as far as rebound compression and get it up off those bump stops a little bit. Just help the compliance of the tire a little bit, where it's not just driving down in racetrack.
That's what I was talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think when you go back to the 6A and B section of the racetrack, what'll happen is these cars, when you run over something or it bounces, it'll get on the floor or to get on the rub blocks, and it'll take one hard bounce, and then it'll just go numb and just start pushing the front end of the car out away from the apex.
So 6A and B are the new corners on this course to shorten it by about 1 mile. The goal being we're going to add more laps to get the same race distance as before. That means the fans here will see the cars come by more often. The field will stay a bit closer together, but it's a new challenge for everybody. 6A, a more than 90-degree left to take you out of the S's into this short section that on Brett Perez's map was called the Mario Kart shortcut. 6B puts you onto the straightaway about halfway between turn 11 and turn 12. So you go 5, 6A, 6B, 12, and so forth.
Yeah, and right here, you can really see where those cars were hitting the ground right there with what used to be the old racetrack.
Yeah, right there.
And that's where they're transitioning into this new section 6A, 6B that is through here. So a lot of
You were telling us they hold it way out to the right too to get you up.
You want to keep the car as wide as possible so that you can turn in and cut that corner at the right
tight
angle.
corner.
So that angle gives you speed down this straightaway right here, and you're going to be all the way to the right and do the same thing on the entry. But when you're going into 6A right there, 6 is really setting up for 6A, but what you do through the S's at the exit of 5 is what sets you up for the entry to 6A.
This aerial angle right there really shows that. I mean, look how far he's going out, and you can see that track doesn't go straight right there. Has him way out, and there's a wall on that outside. You got to stay on that wall. That's a cool corner. This is going to be really wild when you get them all stacked up on a restart.
Good chance that is going to be Calamity Corner tomorrow. Larry? Yeah, reducing this track by a mile at 3 corners, as you pointed out, Mike. One thing I was interested in is to see how many times these guys were going to be shifting. Actually, it's not reduced the number of shifts that much from 4. They are still shifting roughly 20 times a lap. They do not go to 5th gear at all, and the only straightaway they go to 4th gear is up this front straightaway headed up the hill. Everything else in this 5-speed sequential is 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. riding with Kyle Busch. Let's hear his comments on 6B, the corner that puts you back onto what was the longest straightaway.
I didn't feel contact yet in our area, which I get that. Worst one probably 6 feet coming back on main for a lot of enough back and back, but even back, so
That's not good. Yeah, you know, as you go through the S's and the way that that car goes into the curb, transitions off the curb back onto the racetrack, if that car is swirling, doesn't have everything aligned correctly on the stops and the suspension and everything that you have going on, it'll jump and bounce and then it'll jerk the back of the car around and it makes it really uncomfortable and slow.
Chase Elliott coming up on that area now.
That's my favorite analysis you've ever done right there, Kevin. That's not good.
Yeah, that's not good. Well, when these cars hit the ground, it's like we talked right here where Chase is going to 6B. You see the car, the rear tire came off the ground right there. So you have to be able to
Don't want that.
suspension in some way, shape, or form. And like Larry said, you can adjust the shocks, but you can't take the springs off. So if the car's too stiff, you're in for a long day as you see the right front tire try to lock up there. All well. So there's a lot of things happening here that I would say that a lot of these guys probably didn't anticipate. I think
Gentlemen, it is almost time for NASCAR Cup Series action to begin this weekend at
this tire is wearing out way faster than I think a lot of people anticipated. So, you know, you got to kind of put all your eggs in one basket. Am I going for drives when you're in the simulator and setup, or what am I doing here? And I think some of them are going to have missed.
I like we're on this conversation and softening these things up with the shocks, right? And taking some of the rebound out of it, but you got to keep that platform down. Watch this. You can see here's Kyle Busch coming into the corner. Watch the car transition over, lay over to the right side, and then lock that inside wheel up. That's what you got to be careful of. These things want a platform and not be able to roll over and soften it. Softer suspension helps the tires live, but it also creates other problems as well. That's a tricky balance.
It's a tricky balance to be able to get the car to drive and be soft and take all the bumps and not be able to lock the tire up getting in the corner. So it's a definite delicate balance. That 19 right there where Kyle was coming into, there's actually a hot dog curve below the curb right there that you want to actually split and be able to hook that thing. John Hunter's coming to turn right 19 right now, and you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. There's a orange curve on the inside of the red and white curve. That's too high right there. He needs to be lower on the racetrack to really get the maximum grip out of turn 19.
You can tell in the entrance of these corners too by the lockup, the black marks all the way through that corner. Kyle Busch wasn't the only one that did it. Very easy to do. Several cars have done it. Nemechek's had a fun week. 2 top 10s to start the season. What a great launch for him. Only 2 drivers have done that in the topsy-turvy finishes of Atlanta and Daytona.
Yeah, I think a lot of these teams and drivers probably, especially excited to get here and get out of that super speedway drafting style racing for a week.
Well, he might not be one of them. Nemechek, he's 36 out of 37 right now. So
yeah, we need to.
Gonna have to pick it up.
That's a good point.
Well, 16 drivers have already been gigged for track limits at turn 5 and turn 6. Now, in practice, there is no penalty. In qualifying, if you cut the course, the lap is disallowed. And we showed you what happens during the race. You get to go take the long way around.
Don't worry about that, Mike. It's okay. We got to be able to find those limits.
I agree.
And you know that is. Man, that's a lot of dirt right
You're
there.
saying if you're going to do it now.
Do it right now.
That was a problem last year, and they didn't add any pavement there at the exit of turn 20.
Well, with these maniacs, Mike, if you add more pavement, they'll just drive.
They'll use it.
They'll just keep using it.
And they'll dig out more and more as the race progresses, and then somebody will knock the splitter off right there.
Guys, here's an indication that this tire fall off has caught this group off guard because Chastain, second fastest in this session, ran 3 laps. Wasn't bad. Came in for adjustments. Kyle Larson, who's fastest in this group, he ran 6 laps. He's sitting on pit road right now getting adjustments. They know they didn't have what they needed when they unloaded. In fact, Larson just came back off pit road. Drivers in white on the scoring pylon are in this group number 2. Now, when we get to qualify, Group 1 will go out, they will qualify. Group 2 will go out, they will qualify, and the times will be merged, and that's the grid.
I don't know how I feel about that, Mike, but
I know how I feel about it.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Feel that strain.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting to see if this second session, if these guys go do qualifying runs or if they do race runs. It's like I said earlier, I would 100% with as much of a loop as these guys have all been thrown. I would go and race another race run. How about you, driver?
Yeah, well, hang on a second. Chastain, watching him go through those S's laterally, that car's loose. It was swinging really loose side to side all the way through the S's. I was hearing you. I didn't listen to you. I was watching him, making sure he could hold on to that thing. That baby was pretty loose.
Yeah, and these cars are up on top of the racetrack regardless, through the S's. And I think as these tires are wearing out, these things are going to, they look like they're ugly. I can't imagine what it's like to drive them. I'm glad I'm sitting up here.
I don't know. It looks pretty fun, Kev.
Oh, it is fun. This is a blast. And I told you this earlier. Going up this hill into turn 1, being able, you hit the brakes, you drive in further than you think you should, and that hill just grabs you. You see him kind of creep in. That's that angle of the way that the ridge falls off into turn 1.
And the entry is blind. You come up to the top of that hill, and you don't see the apex of the corner until long after you've turned in.
For sure. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Uh-oh, there it went.
Oh, you hear the bottom. Hear the car bottom out right there.
Track limits. Yeah, it did.
And that's what happens with these cars. And that's one thing that these drivers don't like is when that car gets up in the air, it actually will hit the rub blocks, and it is super aggressive on your body inside of the car. It gives you a terrible feeling, and it jumps the car sideways.
Somebody going through 6B, watching that corner right there where those things are jumping, somebody will be in that fence tomorrow. You watch. Because there's no escape route there. There's no runoff.
Yeah, I definitely see that happening on a restart at some point, especially if we get late race restarts.
Spin out, but you see that exit 6B. There's a jump right in between there. Those cars are bottoming out, and that caused one of them to get out from underneath them, especially in racing conditions on a restart when you're too wide.
And some of that will get a little bit better as it wears the rub blocks off of the bottom of the car. So
the point is, there's just no look at the runoff everywhere else except for right there. There's absolutely no runoff.
And the bumps that they're talking about, you can see where these sections of racetrack are rebuilt right there. And right here, you can hear it. You can see and hear the cars going.
All right, now come around to the exit of this corner if you can. If you pan over to the right, and that's the problem. That thing's going to jump off of that corner, get sideways. It's just like up here, no runoff.
Oh, you hear the tires. You can hear the tires chirping as they slide off of that corner.
It's going to be fun to watch these guys navigate around on the restart.
Final lap of this session for Christopher Bell. Kyle Larson, Ross Chastain, Michael McDowell, Carson Hocevar, fastest in Group 2.
Yep. There you heard it. Kyle Larson, fastest of the Group B drivers. All together, we'll go through the finishing order of practice number 1. Again, 2 separate practice sessions, each 20 minutes here. Shane Van Gisbergen still with that 98.855 in Group A is the fastest time. Alex Bowman in second right behind him. So good showing for Chevrolet, locking out all the top 5 positions. Conor Zilisch in third. Kyle Larson again, who was fastest in Group B, is fourth. AJ Allmendinger in fifth. Sixth for Austin Cindric. Daniel Suarez 7th. Noah Gragson in 8th. 9th place, Ty Gibbs and Ross Chastain in 10th. Justin Haley 11th, Michael McDowell 12th, Carson Hocevar in 13th, William Byron 14th, Christopher Bell 15th, 16th for Tyler Reddick, Joey Logano in 17th, Bubba Wallace 18th, 19th for Ryan Blaney, Chase Briscoe 20th, Riley Herbst 21st, Chase Elliott 22nd, Denny Hamlin 23rd, Chris Buescher 24th, Josh Berry 25th, 26th Ty Dillon, Cole Custer 27th, Ryan Preece 28th, Brad Keselowski 29th, Zane Smith 30th, Austin Dillon 31st, Eric Jones in 32nd, Todd Gilliland 33rd, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 34th, Kyle Busch 35th, 36th for John Hunter Nemechek and Cody Ware 37th. Surprised that Kyle Busch is as far down as he is. He actually has 3 top 10s here at COTA, including the last 2 races here with RCR. changed the layout a little bit, but 35th for Busch. He only ran 3 laps, so he definitely did not like the handling of his car, and they pretty much were going to work the entire 20 minutes and not a lot of track time for him. Most laps ran by anybody. It looks like 11 laps for the Trackhouse cars in Group A of Zilisch and Suarez. A lot of the Group B drivers were making adjustments throughout their session, didn't run as many laps. Tyler Reddick also ran only 3 laps. We usually see him towards the top of the leaderboard of the Toyotas and really of these road course racers in general when we go to road courses in the Cup Series. So he's mid-pack. That's interesting. It's interesting. Usually there's a larger split on the road courses between him and Bubba, and they're only 2 positions apart from one another in the middle of the pack. So 23-11 seems to be struggling a little bit. Really, Toyota as a whole, Ty Gibbs the fastest in 9th. Chevrolet just super dominant through practice number 1. That's basically my takeaway here. Trackhouse especially. All 4 Trackhouse cars in the top 10. Chastain was the 3rd fastest in Group B. And then the other 3 Trackhouse cars this weekend were in Group A, and they were all in the top 7 overall. Top 5 in their group. So now the Group A drivers who were on track for the first practice session will be coming back out yet again. And we'll get to see the difference in lap times. I don't know if this is going to be technically a set. Yeah, it is. Okay, so this is a separate practice session. So practice 1 concluded. Shane Van Gisbergen was fastest. Now we get to see who's going to be quickest here in round number 2. And again, 19 drivers on the track now, 18 of them in Group B, and they'll qualify under a time trial situation in their groups when we get to qualifying immediately after practice.
Body of the car, which is where it makes the downforce.
Watching Chris Buescher, here's his foot cam. We appreciate him carrying that for us and giving us a look at everything he has to do going around this course.
Yeah, we appreciate him not twisting it. But, I think I should.
By the way, Ty and XX Larry, thanks for tuning in. Didn't shout any of you guys out yet.
Back to the start-finish line, so
It's a big brake pedal, Kevin.
you got to push the brake pedal pretty hard in these things, Clint. And it's not like the old cars where if you push it too hard, it wheel hops. It'll slide more than anything. It'll just lock up the rear tire sliding.
It's a lot wider than what I've seen in the past, and it's closer to the throttle pedal. Probably helps him with the heel-toe scenario in the pit area or anywhere in between.
Yeah, I mean, the heel toe for him is going to be definitely in the pits. I mean, he's going to use his feet like this on the racetrack like most of us that aren't old school pro road racers do. But definitely each driver has the ability to make that pad as tall, wide, grippy, whatever you want that to be most fit to your driving style. That's what you make it. That pad bolts on and off, and you make it how you want it.
You can tell that's a new Sparco shoe that he's wearing, and look how soft it is. You can tell by the material on it how soft those shoes are, so you can feel them pedals, which is essentially feeling the race car underneath of you.
Yeah, and the gas pedal is really the one that you want to feel. The way that this pedal kind of arcs forward, they're floor mount pedals. For a number of years with the pedals were hung so that the arc of the pedal was much different. And now this is a standardized pedal set that you have to run with this next gen car. And so a lot of guys we've had to do a lot of work on the angle of the pads and the way that the throttle functions and kind of feeds into through the engine and power. But you definitely, I used to grind the bottom of my shoes off to the point that they were as thin as possible to make sure that I could feel that pedal.
Just look at the input it takes to get a car around the racetrack. I mean, this guy is busy. All of the guys are busy, but look at the input in the wheel, to the input in his feet. It's amazing. And that's without cars all around you, like he's going to have tomorrow. Yeah. And then watch his eyes, looking for the apexes in these corners. When you're on a road course, see him looking around that corner, seeing that the apex, that's where you're aiming. And then the next thing on your mind is, where is that exit?
Yeah, and you see him working that brake pedal, modulating the brake pedal as you go through 16 right here, coming back to the start-finish line for qualifying. Off into 20, and you'll see this car is very notorious for the way that you want to use the brake pedal is to hit it and immediately start to bleed off. You want that brake pedal to be on as long as possible, but a lot of modulation of the brake pedal to take care of the wheel lockup or the speed on the entry to the corner.
Or fastest for Buescher in the early going here. Now, at the other end of the scale, here is Ryan Prix. He was, I believe, 18th of 20 in Group 1. And he's a driver who does not have a lot of road race experience. Veteran short tracker, a couple of years here in the Cup Series. But figuring this track out is going to be work for a lot of these drivers.
Well, let's not forget, Mike, that Chris Buescher has done a great job on the road courses over the last few years. So Ryan Preece has got a lot of information from his teammate Chris Buescher to be able to use.
Daniel Suarez cutting the course at turn 5. That will disallow that lap. And yeah, turn 5 seems to be the one place where everybody wants to take just a little bit too much.
Yeah, and it's real easy to get off track in 3 and 4. And once that rhythm gets off, then you try to creep it back in turn 5 so you can set up that entry to 6. But if you get off in 3, you're off the whole section all the way to 6B.
Look at your guy here, Zilisch. A lot slower this practice on the upfront speed. That tells me that they're working on long run speed with that car.
Or they went back out on their old tires, trying to save up for a qualifying run. But
a little speed the second one, but
He just jumped to 5th.
Yeah. So definitely on another set of tires.
Now Haley to 5th.
Trackhouse, SVG, Chastain, and Suarez all fast.
How about Gisberg in here?
I haven't heard much of Trackhouse yet so far with the super speedways. Doesn't surprise me. They've won here before, have success here in the past, and then adding Van Gisberg into the lineup has really helped them.
Well, it raises the expectation too on the road courses. When you come to these places, they expect to win because of what Shane's been able to accomplish so far in his Cup Series career. But it also then you add in Conor Zilisch and Ross Chastain's success here. I mean, it sets Trackhouse up to have the expectation that if they don't win, it's a disappointment with one of their cars this weekend.
Got loose, had to chase it up the track, couldn't hold on to it. Ty Gibbs. Maybe I'll just get out of the way for a second and regroup. That's a good thing about practice.
Ty came out of the box so strong last year as we went through the season, and we really thought that he would get to victory lane, and just hasn't been able to find that yet.
Let's check for Caitlin.
Well, guys, and we're joining Lagana, who's just observing right now. What do you think of this track so far, Joey?
I don't know what you said. It's really loud down here with the buildings on both sides, but I think you asked me about the tracks, maybe. Yeah, it's still there. The new part's definitely different. I'm just trying to figure out the fastest way through it. It's a couple different ways to do it, which is pretty interesting. Road boards is kind of one way to do it, but that corner seems like there's 2 or 3 different ways. Trying to understand the fastest one right now.
Thank you, Joey. Yeah, Conor driver 22, guys.
And they're all learning right now. They're no matter if you've been here or not, there's so many things that are new with the asphalt and the tires and the new section, and there's just it's a constant evolution. And I always used to tell our guys, we either evolve or we die. And we're evolving as this practice session is going on.
Well, I tell you who it just continues to get better and better here and didn't have much room to improve is Bowman right here. Bowman the showman. Take you back 4th last year, 3rd and 2nd back in 22. He is quietly very good here at this racetrack. Look for him to be up front and potentially be in victory lane tomorrow.
AJ Allmendinger, 3rd fastest, behind Bowman and Suarez, all veteran road racers. Well, Suarez and Allmendinger came up through the road race ranks.
Well, we heard AJ really complaining about his car in the first session, and now they've had a chance to make some adjustments on their car. Still see that big lap time, the first lap from AJ. Looks like everybody's fall off is a little bit better as he goes half a second slower.
I tell you, everybody's fall off has gotten probably 3/10 better than it was before.
Regan? Mike, as you guys are talking about AJ Allmendinger, I thought as well as you did based on the lap times, man, he's got to be happy with it right now. But watching him through the S's and on into turn 6A down here, he is wheeling that race car. There's a couple times he's been absolutely out of control through that section, still making lap time doing it. So I'd be curious what he says after this says about that car.
Finding the limit.
All right, here's Josh.
Well, down here with Christopher Bell, what was the biggest thing you've been able to learn about the track out there today?
Well, it's surprising how slick it is. I think everyone was expecting it to be really grippy with the repave, and it does not feel that way. We're slipping and sliding a lot. I'm just really struggling for grip. So hopefully we can get it tuned up a little bit better. And yeah, I haven't really studied enough to know where I stack up or not, but I know I'm sliding around a lot. So try and get this Walt Camry to get a little bit more grip in it. See where we stack up in qualifying.
See Bell, a runner up here last year, Mike.
Larry, I'm looking at the pylon here and I notice SVG Van Gisbergen here is on down the list and a little bit off the pace.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get a feeling that a lot of these drivers and teams maybe put that second set of tires on to start this practice, but when I look at Van Gisbergen back down there at 14th, he ran 3 laps. Came in. I get a feeling Stephen Brand, maybe his crew chief, wanted to try something. Maybe they'll put that second set of tires on possibly now, maybe even make a mock qualifying one.
How about Noah Gregson here? You look on the quarter panel of that car, 60 years. Rusty Rush has been selling and servicing trucks. I made him buy me dinner last night. Had a good dinner with him and his brother Rob and all the boys. Hey, man, he has a lot of fun coming to these racetracks. Nobody actually has any more fun than Rusty. I hope he get a victory here. It would be huge if Noah Gregson could put Rusty in victory lane and celebrate 60 years. What a wonderful company, wonderful family. Started from scratch and pretty wild story to hear them tell all this story from back in the day.
Here's a guy, Chase Briscoe. I feel like he's probably a little underrated on the road courses. I think he does a great job as a teammate of his in the past. This was a place that I felt like he always ran really well at. So being in a Gibbs car now, it'll be interesting to see how his weekend progresses and what he can do on race day. Chase Elliott there hasn't. We talk about him on the road courses, hasn't won a next-gen race. And
He was outside the top 20 in round 1.
Yeah, on the Gen 6 car, he was the man to beat every time. You turned right and turned left. So is Ross the man to beat now? He's certainly one of them.
Well, slideways there, but that's taking a long way around.
Well, as you go through 19, you want to use all that runoff out there, but the further you go on that runoff, the rougher it gets.
I guess all that does is help you carry more speed into 20 by going out that wide. And as we talked, 20 leads onto the longest straightaway.
That's right. As you see Zilisch come down off of turn 2 right here. First corner of the S's, all the way as far right or to the left and back to the right. You want to get as far. And that's what I was talking about earlier, Clint. How does that car ride those curves? And you saw the back end of that car step out.
I mean, use yours. Not good.
Not good. It's such a rhythm how you go on and off of those curves and what your car can and can't do. And if it won't do the proper things over the curve, you just have to slow down.
But that's road racing. It's rhythmatic, situations. Get your rhythm, find your rhythm. You can hear it. You can hear your engine. You feel the brakes. You get in that sync and get in that rhythm, and it feels good. But boy, if you can't find that rhythm, it's like you're blind all day long looking for it. Good setup. Oh, Larry can help me find that rhythm. He gets me off in that setup, gets this thing too rigid, sliding around, wears my tires out.
I don't know.
Put the blame on Larry.
This is a lot of work right here. This is a lot of concentration.
It's not good.
I don't know that Larry can help you, is what I'm saying.
Yes, he can. So happened, Larry. Bring his lights out in the competition. Smoked him, didn't we, buddy? I was a scapegoat for 18 years. Got to put the blame on somebody. It can't be the driver's fault.
impressed with the fall off on this 87 car right now. He's running 7 laps, and he's really just not even quite 3/4 of a second fall off over the course of this run.
I talked about that at the first and asked Kevin. You know, you could tell his up to speed lap, his big lap wasn't near as much. Tells me that they were working on long run speed.
You know, from the driver's standpoint, I'm sure that he learned about the car, and I'm sure the team learned about
Whoa,
the air.
that's getting the ball right there, isn't it?
And you're going to want the car to be sloppy. You don't want to do that. You don't want that lockup consistently, because once it locks up, then it finds that flat spot and it just keeps locking up. But you know, I think that you're going to want the car pretty sloppy the first couple laps, Clint, as far as air pressure goes, as far down as you can get it. That's going to help with
nothing
that
works
drive.
good.
Yeah, nothing should work good. You know, it shouldn't drive good the first couple laps when you're worried about forward drive and things for the long run.
Which is another balance that's hard and tricky for these teams and drivers. Now you have to remember the hardest part is when they're all bunched up. You can make, you know, a lot of ground up and lose a lot of ground on a restart on low air pressure, slipping and sliding around, trying to get the air pressure built up, and it's the same for everybody. You're holding on for dear life to set yourself up to be good on the long run.
William Byron, we've seen him run really well at this racetrack. You see that right front tire locking up. Everybody locking up into the 14 right there.
Everything's just pretty easy if you're William Byron right now. Two-time Daytona 500 champ, left there, clean living, man. You're on house money right now, still feeling good.
Well, let's talk about that. William Byron and Christopher Bell come in here, and they each have a win in their pocket. They're in the playoffs. How much easier does that make? Not just here, but going forward.
Well, it makes it easier, but is that good or bad? You know, I think that's where you see what the team is at, how they're motivated, and you can't be motivated by it getting easier. You have to be motivated by wanting to win again. And how many times can you win? It takes a lot of pressure off.
It's called greed, Kevin. And it's easy to get. And there's only one thing that, once you feel and taste that blood, there's only one thing that gets you that battle. You got to find victory lane, and there's nothing like it. I don't think you get lackadaisical. It only makes you hungrier.
I think that there could be the argument the other way. I think they were off to a great start last year and were flat in the middle of the year. Not good. And you know, they won a few races to start the year and got flat in the middle of the year and didn't have the same results.
Now watch Noah Gregson. Is he going to school on Shane here?
I would be. That's the one I'd be following. Hardest part is he might be on a not qualifying run, as Larry was alluding to. We don't really know what's going on with them. They weren't exactly. We'll just see here. Once this lap comes up, you'll know. I can tell you the distance is getting greater.
Yeah, you saw Noah come off of turn 2 and just completely sideways headed into 3. So he's definitely trying everything he can to keep up. But that's the frustrating part. You feel like, all right, I should be able to keep up with this guy. His car is straight, not sliding, not locking up tires.
If you know it, and he is on a mock qualifying run, you don't know that.
Right.
And they're telling you, get behind SVG and follow and try to learn, and he's blowing your doors off. You're like, hey, man, something's wrong.
Look how far he turns his head, Clint. That shows you how sharp these corners are. Shane looking for the apex of the corners. So, you know, he has to turn his head a mile. Let's see. It's coming to start finish line. Qualifying start finish line. This is 16.
See where the lap turn goes here. Yeah.
Oh, right to the top.
You're fine. Don't worry about it. They done him wrong right there.
And that was a good call, Larry. You know, they were saving that second set of tires to do a mock qualifying run. So he got the best of both worlds. Worked on his car a little bit and wound up getting a mock qualifying run and lead to qualifying here.
Yeah, I think he tried something at the beginning of this practice, ran it 2 or 3 laps, then came in and laid that heater. Noah just had come off pit road as well, but I don't think it was on fresh tires.
You see him use about 3/4 of the racetrack off of turn 1 right there. You can use this whole curve as that paint gets rubbered up. You can use that whole curve. Start of the S's right here into 3. Oh, that was a different car. I was calling the wrong car there. Looked the same. The 6 car, Brad Kozlowski, Got to get going, Clint.
I love that paint scheme. Those colors just take me back to, well, your day, Mike. The old nostalgia in it.
But you're right. I thought the same thing.
Cool. It's old school.
Old Can-Am cars that look like that.
Brad's been doing a lot of fun marketing strategies and stuff with his campaigns, different sponsors this year. It's just they keep getting more and more partners on the side of those race cars that just keep getting a little closer to the front, don't they?
They got up on the big screen there.
Ooh. Everybody who hits that turn 4 curb kind of jerks the car around. I think as you go through 6A right there, you're going to want to be inches from that tire pack. I'm not sure about 6B, Clint. It looks like you turn in early. It almost makes that car jump worse.
I like that.
Later here.
And the flags are out for Group 1. Shane Van Gisbergen and William Byron, Alex Bowman, Daniel Suarez, A.J. Allmendinger, the fast 5.
Some moments call for
Right, Shane Van Gisbergen, top of the speed charts yet again. He did put down a mock qualifying run there right at the end of practice, so that's why he only had 5 laps. Started with the race trim, wasn't going that well, at least on the speed chart side of things. Put up a heater there at the finish, and he was over half a second quicker than second place William Byron. 98.846, it was very similar to the lap time he ran back in round 1. Again, SVG, top of the charts in the 88. William Byron in second, improvement for him on the leaderboard from where he was in round 1, which was outside of the top 5 in his group. Alex Bowman still up there in third. Daniel Suarez fourth, picked up a couple spots, passed a couple of his teammates. A.J. Allmendinger in fifth had dropped. I believe he was third or fourth in Group A in first practice, but fifth in this practice. Chase Briscoe, highest Toyota in sixth. Highest Toyota, we saw in the Group A session in round 1 of practice was outside the top 10. He is the only Toyota in the top 10 for now. Ty Gibbs actually was 9th, and he was the quickest Toyota, so much improvement there for Briscoe. Chris Buescher in 7th. He had big improvement from his first round to his second round as well. Justin Haley's been great so far. He's 8th quickest. Conor Zilisch, 9th after being top 3 in the first session. And Austin Cindric in 10th. Dropped off a little bit. I believe Cindric was 6th overall in practice and was the best Ford. Now he's the second best Ford and back in 10th, and we still haven't seen the Group B drivers hit the track yet. So while we await cars to hit the racetrack once again, we have 2 20-minute sessions for each group. Group A has completed both of their 20-minute practice sessions. Group B is about to start their second. And then we'll get into qualifying, which will be group qualifying in the same groups that they practiced in. Top 5 will advance to the second and final round for a shot to go for the pole. We'll take our first ad break of the stream while we're waiting on more on-track activity. You're listening live on KRC to Cup Series practice at COTA.
I can't count him out. Suarez, anybody in a trackhouse car is fast, and boy, did they need it. Those first 2 races were rough on their group.
How about this kid? First time in a Cup car for Conor Zilisch. Boy, he has responded.
Yeah, and
9th in this session.
Yeah, and it wouldn't surprise me if he got the pole today, but I think he's now he's at that level that it's going to get super challenging for him because he's got people that can match his ability. But at 18 years old, I mean, it's been incredible to watch the progression.
Well, that's what's hard about the Cup Series, and it was that way for all of us. You win everything. You spend your whole life winning everything, and you get here and they throw you on a racetrack, and everybody's done the same thing. Makes it a lot harder. There we go.
Yeah, I like what Darian Grubb, Conor Zilich's crew chief, did, because remember, the first practice, he went out there and ran 10 laps. It was right at 2 seconds of give up. I feel like they put the second set of tires on that run right there. They ran 11 laps. Remember, the track temperature has come up. The fall off was only about a second and a quarter in that run there. All right, let's check with Caitlin.
Well, Mike, you guys were talking about Conor Zilisch making his Cup Series debut. What has this whole experience been like for you so far?
Yeah, it's been a process, but it's been a lot of fun. It's just so much to soak in and learn. There's a lot to learn from all these guys that I'm racing against, guys I grew up watching. So really enjoyed it so far. Starting to make some improvements to our Red Bull Chevrolet, and it's been a lot of fun working with Trackhouse. It's my first race actually in a Trackhouse car, so been a lot of fun working with all them, and really glad to have some good teammates helping me out as well. So looking forward to the race tomorrow and qualifying in a little bit, but hopefully we can get a little more speed out of it.
Thanks for your time. Conor Zilisch got that Xfinity Series pole yesterday. Today.
Thanks, Caitlin.
I'm sure he's 18.
Won 5 of 9 ARCA starts, 2 IMSA class wins, and of course the 2 biggest races of the season. And now full-time in the Xfinity Series.
Always hard to explain to people when you get to the Cup Series just how difficult it is. But when you look at that resume and everything he's done to this point, I mean, he's just never raced against a crop of guys like this. He's going to be competitive with it, but you know, a lot of times they hadn't even been close enough to even challenge him like yesterday.
Well, and the other things are out of your control. You know, pit area, a good pit stop, strategy, all those things. I mean, those are the things that he necessarily hasn't had, you know, the experience with, and that's the challenges. I'm glad, you know, putting him in that Xfinity car and some of these other races, preparing him for that is going to be crucial. But don't be surprised. Wouldn't surprise me a bit if he goes out and wins. Josh?
You're William Byron, a guy that's won the pole the last 2 years here. How do you feel about the car, what you have, and trying to make it 3 in a row?
Yeah, we started off, we struggled really hard there at the beginning, but I feel like we made what's on the front race. Still a little bit more to go. I feel like some areas of weakness that I could still improve are there, so just need to continue to improve the S's, and then yeah, I feel like our car got a lot better. We just started off really loose and hard to make laps. So just thanks to the guys for improving it quite a bit. And you know, just trying to put together a solid first lap for making prior for the fall off. So we're going to get a free second rerun here in qualifying. So trying to put up a good lap to start.
Last year's winner is here at COTA.
Josh, capture this. Chase Elliott. Now this is a conundrum because in the Gen 6 car, he was the man to beat in road racing. In the Gen 7 car that racing now, not so much. Still good. Look at that average finish. That's, you know, everything's all over it, right? Except for that one column. I mean, an average finish of 10th and all the things that can go wrong at a road course is you know, laps led, all the things. He's doing them all. He's checking all the boxes except for that one. Kevin, going back to that last practice, SVG, it was essentially the only one that elected to make a mock qualifying run, and it took a lot of practice away. I don't know if you'll see anybody in this group do that, but do you like that?
Well,
Strategy call, I guess it was.
I guess it depends on where your car is as far as where you're comfortable with the balance and things like that for race trim. So I'm always going to lean towards making sure my car is right for the race trim, and probably to a fault when I drove to make sure that my car would drive good, and then take my lumps at qualifying.
I guess the experience of having a driver like that in the car with that much experience probably lends itself and gives you that, you know, the option to be able to do that. Again, I'm no different than you. I wanted all the laps I could, seat time on the racetrack to learn.
Yeah, and I think that the interesting part about that is too, though, I think there can be an argument made about how much faster the pace is. I mean, you're looking at almost over a second and a half faster from what you're going to run in race trim. So there is a different pace to be in that rhythm before qualifying.
Well, let's find out from Caitlin.
Michael, so far so good for Shane Van Gisbergen. Significant change here today.
Aaron Wood. You know, it's going well. Weather tech tomorrow is really good so far, and just getting the hang of it. We're trying a few things. We tried a mock run at the end, and it wasn't very good. So hopefully we can make it better for qualifying. So looks fast, but I think other guys have a little bit left.
You know, SVG always want to watch on these style tracks, guys.
Well, that's bad news for the rest of the field. If he said it wasn't very good, he's at the top of the board. Well, that's kind of where I was going with that question to you, Kevin. Like, it took a lot of seat time, obviously a set of tires to be able to do that, a lot of track time, and essentially people were going out and running that.
at the start of practice anyway.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how all that cycles through. I mean, you know, to that point, when he talks about his car driving bad, now they can make some adjustments to the car for fall.
Ryan Blaney.
I think you'll see him in the, low 38s, minute 38 second bracket. I think that's what it's going to take, and he was obviously 8/10 off of that.
Blaney jumps to P4 on the board overall. Second in this group to Carson Hocevar.
Wow.
Coming off a very eventful Atlanta, in which he ended up the runner-up. Blaney finished fourth in Atlanta.
Well, he's just good all around, Mike. Yeah, I mean, they've been able to find speed on any type of racetrack they go to. Much like these two guys.
Yes. I just noticed the long body
I love it.
Yeah, of Ross Chastain's car.
Move out of the way. The bull's coming through, boys.
Where are the horns?
I got a Cadillac with horns on the hood.
Really?
Oh, yeah. When you drive that baby and look out across.
What is it, like 1/25th scale?
Oh, no. They hang out past the.
Oh, my God.
They hang out way past the hood.
Well, we're watching Denny Hamlin right there go through the S's now, and he's not got a lot of. He doesn't have a lot of speed right now.
Stenhouse. Claire getting back on track after a spin. And that was at turn 19. Larry?
Yeah, I've been monitoring a lot of the radio stuff, and let's go back to Conor Zilisch. One thing that they worked on a lot between the two practices, between those two long runs, he said the front tires were sliding in the slow speed corners, but in the high speed stuff, it had no rear lateral grip. The rear was not down in the racetrack. Definitely feel like they made improvements from practice 1 to practice 2. He said he was a lot better through the S's in that second practice.
Well, he's trying to do something no driver has ever done in NASCAR. He won the pole in his Truck Series debut. He won the pole in his Xfinity debut last year. This is his Cup debut. Nobody's ever hit that trifecta.
Just takes one lap, Mike.
Yep.
Make it happen.
A lot of focus in them eyes.
I still can't get over it. He's 18.
He looks like a kid.
Gosh. But all that experience and all that talent. Tyler Reddick started top 4 in all 4 races here, including the pole in 2021.
So rough the entrance of that corner is. That's another problematic situation for braking.
Well, they ride over the curb right there in the 20s. So, I mean, that has that chatter all the way into the corner as you're trying to brake. But that extra racetrack being to the right allows you to get a better angle to the entry to the last corner on the straightaway.
Look at that blind entry.
And you see him fade in right there, like we talked, to really follow that ridge to keep that car loaded up as much as possible. To me, this turn 2 right here was always a place you could gain or lose a lot of speed. A lot of guys use more curb on the inside.
If you use too much curb, you're going to get loose. If you get wide, you got to pull in the wheel harder and you get loose. But to your point on the speed gain or lost.
Now, in most tracks with S's, you can establish a rhythm. Not here, because the S's get tighter and you get slower as you go through them.
Good old NASCAR 21 ignition taught me that. One of the few things it taught me in life.
This week, he's not a big fan. Racetrack up. I don't see any Toyota drivers showing a lot of speed in either one of these practices.
Been a good racetrack over the years for Tyler Reddick.
Well, there's just so many new variables that we're dealing with this particular weekend with, sections of newer asphalt and new section of racetrack, new tires. So that has to swing in favor of somebody. And
that's a good point. I mean, you saw his teammate earlier, right? Bubba Wallace was spun around, having trouble with his car. Maybe they're just missed the setup a little bit with 2311. That can happen easy when you change as many things as they have. Not only the racetrack tires, a lot of differences.
You have to make some assumptions when you're in the simulator and you're developing the tire. You have to make some assumptions on how much grip the racetrack is going to have, how rough is it going to be. All those things are a little bit of a guess in this scenario of the weekend, and that always swings in somebody's favor, and it definitely so far doesn't look like it's in Reddick's favor for sure.
And a big part of that, assumption, if you will, is the grip level in that tire and the fall off. A lot of science behind it, and they can narrow that gap. But problem is, over the years, they narrow that window down even more and more and more, and then all of a sudden you throw them for a loop when you change the whole tire.
My biggest concern is like he's legit locked it up every single lap one in the 13.
Not sure who they were talking about there, but
It was the spotters and the crew chief talking about Kyle Busch, talking about his lockup getting into 3.
And that was what you were talking about earlier, Clint, is that car, you go out of 12 and that car is rocked over on the right rear, and then you want it to transition back to the right for turn 13, then it gets that right front tire light. What are you hearing, Regan?
Okay, but I can't tell you about turn 13 because I can't see it, but I can tell you as these practices have worn on, these guys are getting way more aggressive, especially into turn 6A, 6B as well. And as they're getting more aggressive, way more lockups on the tires. A couple guys actually missing the corners completely over here. Carson Hosevar just did a mock run a few minutes ago, or I believe it was a mock run, completely lit the tires up all the way into turn 6A right there. So guys are trying to find that little bit more speed, and it's getting more difficult to do that tomorrow. As you guys have mentioned, we're going to have some problems with tires, potentially.
You see that ridge right there that they're talking about, locking that tire up, and then as it goes over that, it just stays locked up.
And look where the hash marks are. You see where it's light, dark, light, dark? That's where those tires are locking up, and that shows the roughness of the racetrack. It's a transition. You got the car rocked over, making that inside tire light, and then all of a sudden the bumps amplify it.
Larry?
yeah, one other thing you can adjust under the impound. We've talked about compression and rebound, low speed, high speed on the shocks. Is these cars have a front and rear sway bar, anti-roll bar. You don't change the bar, but they have a blade on it. You can change just how stiff or soft it is in the front of the rear. That gives the car a little more compliance, especially through those S's.
Yeah, a lot of times those sway bars are really what controls the platform of the car. You see those guys cut the turn 19 there. But a lot of times that'll help what like Kyle Busch is dealing with. You know, they try to soften those bars up to let the back of the car grip in the back, but sometimes you got to keep that bar stiff enough to keep the platform of the car right so it won't lock up those tires in the front. Riley Herbst has a pretty colorful car this week.
Yeah.
Riley always did fairly well here in the Xfinity car, and I promise you this one doesn't feel anything like that car.
5 minutes left of practice for the time being here. Shane Van Gisbergen still at the top of the speed charts. Carson Hosevar, third fastest overall, but he is the fastest of the Group B drivers. He only ran 1 lap, so I'm assuming that was a mock qualifying run. And then I don't know if we'll see him back on the racetrack again to try to make another run before we get into qualifying following this final 20-minute segment of practice. Ryan Blaney's in 4th. You got Alex Bowman 5th overall. He was from Group A. Chase Elliott, much improved. He was outside the top 20 overall in the first round of qualifying. Round number 2, he is 6th. Kyle Larson's dropped back to 7th. Kyle Busch, big improvement for him as well. He was 34th in practice number 1. Practice number 2, he is 8th. We're used to seeing Kyle finish in the top 10 here at COTA, and not going to want to make that any different this time around. Ty Gibbs, who was the only Toyota in the top 10 overall in Group A, well, not even just Group A, just overall in round 1, he was 9th. He is now outside the top 10, and Chase Briscoe, in fact, is the fastest Toyota in 12th. Fastest Ford by far, Ryan Blaney in 4th. Cindric was the fastest Ford in round 1 of practice. He was 6th. Cindric has dropped outside of the top 10. So a lot of changes, just trying to find the right balance. If your favorite driver was fast in one practice versus the other, they're just trying something different so they can get a better feel for where exactly they need to be at the start of the race tomorrow when it comes to the setup side of things. We'll go through the full field order of practice and how that shapes up here in a couple of minutes when it is complete. Might have some mock qualifying runs here in a couple of minutes. We'll take a quick break. Again, you're listening live on KRC, do NASCAR Cup Series practice at COTA.
Especially on these long runs. Only gets worse. Take you with Christopher Bell. He was one of them that was off, and it goes back to 6B that we were talking about earlier. Not a lot of runoff. One little slip up. Watch it jump here. John, you probably hear it. Whoa. See how that, as soon as it bottomed out, you heard it bottomed out, and the car came out from underneath of him and got in the dirt. Yeah, a little bit further there. You get all 4 tires in the dirt, you're going to be in the guardrail.
And one thing that I noticed on that exit right there, it sounded like he got in the gas too soon as well, and almost jumped over that as it bottomed out.
All right, let's see what Denny Hamlin was trying to diagnose.
I think you're going to put brake front, flip flop, put brake front. We're ready for you to bring it to it.
Okay. Well, you were spot on. That's exactly what you saw, but the right front takes me back to, that's why I asked you about that dirt. That dirt only gets worse. More and more cars go through it. It digs a hole, a divot in the ground, and sooner or later somebody hits that thing, bottoms the car out, rips the right front wheel off.
Well, we talk about all these curbs that are being hopped. We talk about the cars bottoming out, and it's hard on the drivers. Let's not forget, it's hard on the cars. And, those sections like you're talking about off of turn 20, Clint, with that divot that's being formed in a couple spots.
And the exit of 15, right?
Can grab that right front and do some damage to it.
Kyle Busch, 8th overall, 5th in this group, using up all the racetrack and a little more.
I like the corner. That's the new adjustment to this racetrack, and I know I've said it twice. Somebody's gonna have trouble there tomorrow.
Carson Hocevar is fastest in this group, coming off a wild Atlanta in which he finished second in that 3-wide finish with Christopher Bell.
We think that might be my qualifying run.
3-wide finish, your quotations.
Run for him last Sunday, and after that race, everybody wanted to talk to him.
Yeah, I think for Carson, he's just got to learn from it. It would not be any less aggressive. I would advise him to be as aggressive as possible, but clean up those mistakes. I think he's definitely got to take something that he makes better to earn the respect of the competitors. So,
and he will. Now, early in the race, Kyle Busch was not happy with Hocevar and the way he was driving Kyle on one of NASCAR's fastest tracks.
You'll find 77, he's done it 8, 2, 10 times. I don't care if I wreck the whole field, I'm over him. I'm going to wreck it bad. I'm for it, love it.
Well, things calmed down from there.
Well, he definitely got tight there on the exit of 2 and running right in the fence. But hey, man, he hasn't had an opportunity to run up front for a win very many times, and he did in a big way, in a big fashion. I don't care. I'm going to apologize when I get to the house. He didn't wreck me, and I about won the race.
All right, practice is over. Carson Hocevar fastest in this group. Now, for those of you watching on YouTube and Facebook, coverage will continue on Prime Video. Qualifying getting underway shortly.
Yep, Amazon Prime. Prime Video specifically is where you can watch qualifying as well as obviously practice, which was just wrapping up moments ago. We'll go through the full 37-car field in the order of how they finished in the second and final practice session. Shane Van Gisbergen was fastest overall with a lap of 98.846, a little bit quicker, I believe, than what he ran as his fastest lap, also topping the charts in round number 1. William Byron, second quickest. Carson Hocevar, fastest in Group B, third overall. Ryan Blaney, Group B as well, fourth overall. Alex Bowman, fifth from Group A. He was third. Chase Elliott, third fastest, Group B. He was sixth. Kyle Larson, seventh. Kyle Busch was in the top 10 and eighth. Daniel Suarez, top 10 in both practice sessions. Same for his teammate Chastain in 10th. Suarez 9th, of course. AJ Allmendinger, who was top 5 in the first practice session, 11th in practice session number 2. Chase Briscoe, fastest Toyota, this time in Group 2, as he was 12th overall. Michael McDowell, much improvement as well, 13th overall. Chris Buescher, 14th. Justin Haley, 15th. Tyler Reddick, 16th, which is exactly where he was in round 1. Conor Zilisch, 17th after being 3rd quickest in first practice. Austin Cindric, who was top 10, is back to 18th. Ty Dillon, 19th. Riley Herbst, 20th. Christopher Bell, 21st. Joey Logano, 22nd. Zane Smith, 23rd. John Hunter Nemechek from 36th to 24th, so good improvement for him in round number 2. Ty Gibbs falls off from 9th to 25th. Bubba Walls falls off a bit to 26th. Todd Gilliland, 27th. Ryan Preece, 28th. Josh Berry, 29th. And Noah Gragson, who was top 10 in round 1 of practice, 30th overall in round 2. Austin Dillon, 31st. Denny Hamlin, 32nd. Brad Keselowski, 33rd. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., 34th. Cole Custer, 35th. Eric Jones, 36th. Cody Ware rounds out our 37-car field. Again, that was practice session number 2 that just wrapped up. We'll have qualifying here in a little bit. It'll be group qualifying. Top 5 from each group will advance into the final round. 2 rounds. It is a timed session, so you can go out on the racetrack, lay down a lap at any point in time during that session. And time expires. You could still finish your lap if you had already started one. If you did not start a lap at the time of the clock expiring, that next lap will be disallowed. Track limits obviously only enforced in the S's. If you were to go off track in that area of the racetrack, that lap would also be disallowed. And you would have to run another one to make a lap time for qualifying. The groups are the same from where they were in practice. So all the Group A drivers who were in both their practice sessions will be the first on track. 20 minutes is the amount of time you have to lay down your fast lap. And again, you can use any time frame in those 20 minutes to put a lap down. You can run as many laps as you want. If you really wanted to run all 20, you could. The idea is to try to run less, so you have less laps on your tires for when round 2 comes, because you do have to use the same set of tires in both rounds if you advance. EZ Network, thanks for tuning in. Is that right? Only 44-second laps. No, that's not right. Double that. Just under 100-second lap times. For Shane Van Gisbergen specifically, ran in the 98s. I think he was the only driver to run a sub 99-second lap time, if I'm not mistaken. And he did it twice. Might be one of the favorites for the poll, and as of right now, our chat poll, 53 votes have been entered. SVG leading at 58% of those votes to out-qualify the other 3 at least. Conor Zilisch at 11%, 23% for Kyle Larson, and William Byron 8% after qualifying on the pole the last 2 years at COTA, though this year outside the top 10 in both practice sessions. He swept practice qualifying and winning the race last season, so definitely a little bit behind on speed for William Byron this week and this year at COTA. The drivers who will be making a lap in Group A will be Austin Cindric, Noah Gragson, Brad Keselowski, Justin Haley, Ty Dillon, AJ Allmendinger, Chris Buescher, Chase Briscoe, Josh Berry, William Byron, Cole Custer, Eric Jones, Alex Bowman, Cody Ware, Ty Gibbs, Ryan Preece, Conor Zilisch, Shane Van Gisbergen, and Daniel Suarez. 17 drivers, again, a 37-car field, so we'll actually have one more car in Group A than Group B. 17 here. Group B will have, 19 here. 18 will be in Group B. I got to do my math right. We'll see how it goes. I like how it has the rules up here, even though I already explained them. We'll see. Passes 5 and 10 lap averages for Hendrick Motorsports. Yeah, but I will say, though, that there was a lot less drivers who ran more than 5 laps in a run in the second practice. First practice, quite a few drivers did, but second practice, there weren't many. So I wouldn't necessarily take that into consideration as to how quick they are. They're definitely quick considering they were both top 10, but I wouldn't say that they have the fastest long run cars necessarily when we haven't really seen many make long runs. We'll take one more quick break here before qualifying begins. We're waiting cars to hit the track as we are getting closer to the start of our timed 20-minute Group A's version of their qualifying run. A lot warmer temperatures this year. 80 degrees for a high of 69 last year at COTA. This race a little earlier in the season, too. Crazy how that works out. Okay, we'll take that break now before we miss any action. You're listening live on KRC. I'll leave the chat poll open until the end of round 1 of qualifying. So after both groups finish their first round. We'll wait on it. Alex Bowman looks like he's going to be the first car on track. Conor Zilisch is the second car on track, so Bowman will be at the top of the speed charts first once he completes his lap. But the track is green.
Straightaway, we are using an artificial line between turns 18 and 19 as the timing line for qualifying laps.
So right now you see all the strategy right now is to when you take off, you need to get your spacing right, but you don't want to. Now they know about the tires. They're probably going to go. I would say on the exit of turn 12. That'll be where they take off to try to get as little heat in the tires as possible. So
The heck?
They got it all here. Really? Stormtroopers?
Stormtroopers. There is a roller coaster.
Breakdancing.
Breakdancing stormtroopers.
Love this place.
And track limits. Kyle Larson was off 5 times at turn 5 during practice, but that didn't count. Doesn't matter.
It does
now. Yeah, if you violate track limits now, you will lose your lap.
Here we go. See William Byron, first car to the line right there.
So Byron got around Bowman then.
Fine.
Bowman was the first on track.
Stay on this racetrack. Mind your P's and Q's through the S's. Do not get penalized.
Well, we talk about that track temp, and I think as that temperature goes up, the pace is going to go up as well. So knowing what this pace is, another advantage for Group 2.
Byron and Bowman out first. All 4 of the Hendrick drivers in the top 7 in practice. And Hendrick Motorsports has won 4 of the last 5 first races.
What was your strategy in this situation, Clint, when you go from practice to qualifying? Did you try to go faster, or did you try to just let the car do the work?
That's exactly where I was going. I was told, like Gil Martin, one of my first crew chiefs, told me, let the car do the work. The pace will come automatically. You don't have to overdrive the corners harder. You don't have to pick up the gas any faster. Just the grip level and the tires themselves picks the pace up. Let the car do the work. You see, when you push it in the corner harder, now you're having to pull on the wheel, transitioning the car lighter on the inside tire. You're going to have a wheel lock up. Let the car do the work. Hit your mark. Stay on this racetrack. Business will pick up on its own.
Always like to have a rabbit.
I see Zilisch. He looks fast, but I've seen a couple. I saw a wheel lock up in the back. I also saw him, using all the exit off of. There it is, right there. Okay.
Man.
Oh, Slowski got over there where you're not supposed to go.
So you go out of turn 16. A lot of times, you can let that car run wide, come into that temporary start finish line for qualifying.
138.93 goes back to SVG when he ran that lap. It was an 86, I believe. So they didn't pick up near as much as I thought that they would.
But they did pick up.
Temperatures track getting hotter and slicker is probably a big part of that, Larry.
Yeah, I'm not going to say you can't go back out there and run faster, but I think with the track temp coming up and these tires having give up, you're going to have to make major adjustments, and you're going to have to really miss it on that first lap to run faster.
There it is.
And that was the case with Chase Briscoe. So far, he is the only driver to continue down the front straightaway to run a second lap.
Allmendinger. These are the racetracks you have to be able to capitalize on. Allmendinger, SVG, even Zilisch. They're the ringers of today's day and age.
Yeah, they're all road racers. Allmendinger with several cup wins, and they have all come on road courses, all three of them.
Taking care of business, baby.
And we talked about it before. We talked about it in practice. I mean, he's just a guy that can carry your car for a lap. It may not handle well. It may not do all the things that he wants it to do, but he's going to put that car on his back for a lap, no matter what road course we're on, and make it go fast for a lap.
So Chase Briscoe, who was the fastest Toyota in practice, 139.75. That's 1 second off A.J. Allmendinger's top of the board speed. And hopefully he does not catch up to the 54 Ty Gibbs here before completing his lap. I don't think he will.
Yeah, and I'm with Larry. I just don't see the only way that they might have a chance to go faster. You see him let it run wide there, coming to the start finish line. For these guys that have gone super fast, I don't know.
Picked up half a second.
Yeah, and I don't know if that was because of the fact that he made a huge mistake and he kept going. That could be why. That's usually why you do the second lap. But if you get that first one right, usually that's the best.
If you see somebody pick up after lap 1, in my opinion, right now, it's because they made a pretty drastic mistake and left something on the table.
All right, drivers on course: Cody Ware, Austin Cindric, Josh Berry, Daniel Suarez, Ty Gibbs.
I don't think you'll see him go back out and reboot and go to the top of the board, but you can better your position. If you were, say, Ryan Prix, clear down to the bottom and look at his lap time, way off the pace, that car will get better. Ty Gibbs has been fast. Look at here. He's fast in practice. We didn't talk about him much. We only showed him one time, like off the track. But he's putting together a big lap here.
Yeah, he had to lift off the exit of that corner, Clinton. That's going to cost him a bunch of time down the straightaway.
He's got some to give.
Yeah.
And he's going to catch Daniel Suarez here.
Oh, a little more lockup. Look at it. Lost a lot of time with that wheel lockup. Still good. Bring it around here, buddy. A little bit more time.
Well, it looks like he gave up a little on the entry right there to get the exit.
That's right. Gained it right back. Easy in, hard off. It's going to be close.
And here he comes off the line.
Just right there at the end, he gave it up. And man, what a great effort by Ty Gibbs. Great lap.
Second fastest.
And that's not surprising. Ty has done a great job on road courses. Joe Gibbs Racing in general does a great job on the road courses. But I think from practice to where they are right now is a little bit of a surprise because we didn't expect as much speed.
Look at this. Look in these sector times. Look over, and here it is. Suarez in the green. We talked about Trackhouse. Fast. These cars are all fast. He's on a heater right here.
Yeah, and we saw the same thing out of Ty Gibbs as he exited turn 1 in off of turn 2 into the S's. He had a huge margin, huge gap of time to be gained. That was close right there as far as cutting the course.
Suarez has started top 10 in 2 of his 4 starts here. Has racing background in Mexico.
Noah Gregson,
racer.
He's in the green. Great lap going for him. Losing a little bit of speed there, but just Suarez just keeps building on the hard part of the racetrack. Where everybody else is falling off, he's gaining some steam.
Oh, little slip right there, headed into 15. Didn't seem to hurt his time at all, Clint.
No, carrying a lot of momentum. Going back to Allmendinger, he was fastest in this third section. That's where he made up a lot of time in the competition.
Great lap for Suarez.
Top of the chart, 148.48. Daniel Suarez.
Big time. But Noah slipped up. You heard it. You could hear it in his tires. You hear it.
You can still
Tires balling, and man, it lost it all right there. Look how far it cost him. He
Wow.
had a really good lap going. It's going to put him third or fourth fastest right there to right at the end.
Now, Austin Cindric's first lap was 149, 10 seconds off. Was that just to get up to speed lap?
That was a mistake and aborted.
Okay. So here's his second try. Coming to 12.
And you see a lot of wheel in that car as he went through turn 12 right there. Snappy loose on the exit. Short shifted right there to keep the tires from spinning. Headed into 15.
I didn't race this track. What was the hardest part for you? The biggest challenge you had here at COTA?
Everything.
It's not
Well,
great.
I think the hardest part for me is I was in such a rhythm on all the racetracks that we'd been to in Sonoma and Watkins Glen for umpteen years.
No rhythm here.
And I just didn't have a rhythm.
Not great.
Not great.
Caitlin?
Well, Mike, 7 road course wins for Chase Elliott. Based on what you saw in the practice sessions, how confident are you in a pole potentially today?
I think I have a shot at it for sure. I thought our second round was a lot better than our first. Just took me a minute to get up to speed, and our car had some struggles, I think, in that first round too. So Alan made some good changes from the first to the second, and then just need a little bit more, I think, for the qualifying session here, and then me just made it a little better, and maybe we'll have a shot at it. We'll see.
So changes obviously to this racetrack. Do you enjoy that as a driver, taking on a new challenge like this?
I do for this place in particular. I think this is an F1 style track, right? With long straightaways, and our cars just don't get to that terminal velocity to take advantage of, the draft and be able to make moves. So I think for the way our cars race and how heavy they are and the pace and everything, this is a much better circuit for us. Obviously we haven't raced on it yet, but that's my 2 cents thus far, and we'll see how it does tomorrow.
Thanks for your time. Former COTA winner here, Chase Elliott. Josh?
Here with Carson Hocevar, and you showed a lot of speed in those first practice sessions. So what do you have for this qualifying round?
Hopefully, maybe a little bit better. I wasn't really happy with my lap, but normally when you're not happy and you actually have a lot of speed, that's normally a good thing on these road courses, it seems, or at least for me. So I'm excited. Our Delaware Life Chevy is obviously, I think, really good and really strong in practice. It just all depends if we can capitalize and do the same thing and replicate it and just be a little bit better. Everybody seems to go faster, so we just got to be able to match that.
You were the talk of the series this week with how you raced last week. A best finish for you as a runner-up, but how did you process everything that went on?
I just like racing, and I'm there to race, and I'm excited to race here, and I'm excited to have fast race cars, and I'm going to continue to try and do that. So it's been a lot of fun and been a lot of positives from Hendrick Motorsports to Chevy, and as well as, obviously, most importantly, my team. So I race for me, myself, and and then, also a little bit for Spire Motorsports for sure. That's what they pay me to do, and that's what we're here to do, and we're here to win races.
Good mentality to have for Carson Hocevar.
Well, like he said last Sunday, we're not a boy band. We're not here to be best friends.
I like that. Larry, what do you got?
Just over 7 minutes left on the clock here. Nobody is on the, well, as I say, nobody's on the track. Shane Van Gisbergen is on the racetrack as of right now. He has not made a lap yet. He is the only driver who kind of sat out for the time being to run a lap, waited for nobody to get back out there. He is on track right now. He hasn't started his timed lap yet, but he's getting pretty close. Again, that timing line is in turns 18 and 19. In between turns 18 and 19, that little short shoot of a straightaway. SVG rounding out 18 right now. Gets to the timing line. Here we go. Conor Zilisch back out to run another lap. This is interesting that he's going back out there for another one, because the more laps you run, if you do advance, the less likely you are to put down that good of a lap time that could compete for the pole when we get into round number 2. Zilisch may be thinking that he doesn't feel he's got a lap time that can compete. Guess we'll really get to see what the fall off is going to be for Zilisch, especially just from one lap to the next. You have to factor in the outlap there, too. Van Gisbergen through the S's was fastest in both rounds of practice. Not just in his group, but overall. So you'd have to expect that he's going to be able to put down a lap time that could get him into the top 5 and advance him into round 2 for qualifying. Although as of right now, he's going to have to pick up, and he's only got a couple more corners to do so. Tracking in the red. I'm not sure if the tracking on the red is to Daniel Suarez or the top 5. I would imagine it's the top 5. Because that's the way it's been so far through qualifying. Just coming up off of 18 right now. And Shane Van Gisbergen puts himself second. So I guess the red was not for the top 5 for some reason that time around. It was to Daniel Suarez. Good enough. Don't imagine that time is going to get beat. 98.519. That was quicker than he ran in practice, both practice sessions, when he was the only driver in the 98 second lap category, so we've already seen quite a bit of pickup from several drivers. Daniel Suarez is first right now. Shane Van Gisbergen second. AJ Allmendinger in third. Then you got Ty Gibbs and Conor Zilisch, our fast 5 for now. 4 minutes still on the clock. Justin Haley, Ryan Prix out there trying to, at the very least, better their positioning for the start of tomorrow's race. Haley was top 10 in practice, 11th in this group of cars, though, in qualifying. William Byron, who has won the pole in back-to-back COTA races, 2023, 2024, is 6th and not looking to make it into the top 10 here in 2025. May have a new track pole sitter for the first time in the Cup Series. Only Byron, Reddick, and Blaney have poles. And Reddick was lacking speed in practice. He was outside the top 15. He was 16th, in fact, in both practice sessions. So that could be a little concerning there as well. Fast lap, by the way, for Suarez, a 98.482. It's an average lap speed of 87.732 miles per hour. And looking at Conor Zilich's best lap, it's only showing his last lap when he was coming into the pits after going back out on the racetrack, but the average speed is an 87.336. Arafi doesn't exactly show for qualifying what that fastest lap time is to beat. I guess for that I can look at Fox's leaderboard. It wasn't really paying attention there. Amazon Prime, obviously covered by the Fox booth. Mike Joy, Kevin Harvick, Clint Boyer are up there. Yeah, 98.93 for Zilisch is his fastest lap. And during practice, Mike Joy stated over the broadcast he qualified on the pole in his first ever truck and Xfinity race, trying to be the first driver to do that in their debut in all 3 series. To be able to have a chance at it, though, he's got to be in the top 5 through Group A. So far, so good for the rookie making his debut this weekend. Zilisch on the pole already. It was fastest overall for the Xfinity Series yesterday when they were on track. That race will be coming on a little bit later today as well. Probably have around an hour or so, give or take, of a gap time between this stream and the start of the Xfinity Series race later. Yeah, Amazon Prime Video is where qualifying is on. Irina Sayre, thanks for tuning in. Yeah, quite a few pickups from where we saw in practice. You got to factor in, too, though, a lot of the practice lap times were more race trim, especially with the amount of fall off we were seeing in the tires that Goodyear brought this weekend. Slick racetrack as well, which most teams were not expecting with the repave at COTA. Only section of the racetrack that isn't repaved would be the new section for the Cup Series, which would be between turn 6A and 6B before getting back onto the normal course towards turn 12. And that, what was the longest straightaway on the racetrack, now cut in half. Again, using a 2.3 mile layout versus the original nearly 3.5 mile track. Quite a big difference that they took out of there with that long straightaway. That's the only difference, too. The race is on Fox tomorrow. If you're talking about the Xfinity race later today, that's supposed to be on the CW. All the Xfinity races will be on the CW this season. As far as the Cup Series race tomorrow, it's on your local Fox affiliate, just like it has been the last few weeks. Surprised Daniel Suarez is back out on the racetrack again. Having the fastest time so far. I wouldn't expect him to get bumped. And that's putting an extra lap on these tires, which is maybe going to hurt his chances of trying to qualify on the pole when we do get into round 2 and have the reset. That's surprising to me, honestly. They're trying to go for a track record or something. Like I don't know what the logic was there for Daniel Suarez in that 99 team. Yeah, being at the top like that, I would imagine it'd be a no-brainer to stay in the pits. Time has expired, but everybody who started their lap before the time expired obviously are currently finishing them. Nobody jumps up into the top 5 positions, so those stay the same. Again, our Fast 5 from Group A, Daniel Suarez first, Shane Van Gisbergen second. Then you have AJ Allmendinger third, Ty Gibbs fourth, Conor Zilisch fifth. And the only driver of the Fast 5 who ran one lap was Shane Van Gisbergen, so look out for him to potentially get that pole in round 2. That's who I'm taking, especially after Suarez ran another lap. Suarez qualified on the front row in 2022. He started second, won the first stage of that race, got caught up in an incident after being back in traffic because of staying out to get the stage points. Got caught up in a turn 1 incident on that stage 2 restart. Didn't end his day, but finished outside the top 30. Suarez has not scored a top 10 finish in his 4 starts at COTA coming into this weekend's event, but looking for another good qualifying effort. And I would imagine they're not going to do the same thing they did back in 2022 strategy-wise at the start of the race. Learn from the mistakes, and we'll see where they can be. They're definitely starting up in the top 10. All the Trackhouse cars were quick. All 4 of them were in the top 10 in practice overall in both Practice 1 and Practice 2. So the results from qualifying Group A, we went through the Fast 5. Your starting order 6th on back. You got William Byron in 6th. Noah Gragson in 7th. 8th place for Chase Briscoe. 9th, Alex Bowman. Chris Buescher in 10th. Brad Keselowski 11th. Ryan Preece 12th. Justin Haley 13th. Cole Custer 14th. Eric Jones 15th. Ty Dillon 16th. Josh Berry 17th. 18th for Austin Cindric. And Cody Ware 19th. And Cindric dropped off a lot because he did make a mistake on his qualifying lap. Went back out there trying to run another lap. Unfortunately, didn't work out very well for him. If you haven't been as interactive with the chat compared to most streams, I have Amazon Prime Video on my phone, but not on my TV at the moment. So I had to actually look at the chat through my laptop screen. So if you see me kind of fluctuating back and forth throughout the day, or throughout the stream in particular, then that would be why. Taking the picture of the results before they disappear for Group B, so that way when we get into Oh, I didn't realize it stayed up there. I guess I didn't have to do that. I could just go back and look when we're done. Well, that's different. Usually with the old raw feed, it would just completely reset on us. I like that. They made a lot of changes that I don't like with the raw feed, but I will say of the changes that I do like, that is one of them. Trying to find NASCAR qualifying again. So I had to log out of Amazon Prime and get my camera up. Log back in, I don't see it anywhere. There we go. I was putting it in the search bar and I couldn't find it.
Always on one. Tomorrow. Ship. Freeway insurance. Spring for.
Thanks for your time. Well, confidence high right now for Trackhouse Group, guys.
Pretty good. You have 3 of the top 5. I said great.
Yeah, and the only other one that isn't in there is Chastain. Chastain is in Group B. As far as the drivers who will be in this group, Ross Chastain, Austin Dillon, Kyle Larson, Kyle Busch, Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, Christopher Bell, Joey Logano, Bubba Wallace, Todd Gillen, Riley Herb, Zane Smith, John Hunter Nemechek, Tyler Reddick, Michael McDowell, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Carson Hocevar. Those are the 18 that will be in Group B, waiting for this group to start and get that green light to hit the racetrack. Up to 31 likes on the stream, so be sure to hit that like button, try to drive it up closer to 50 before we get to the end of this one. Again, our Xfinity Series race coverage will begin at 2:30 p.m. Eastern today, about an hour and a half from now. And we'll be live for the NASCAR Cup Series event tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern in the afternoon. That will be our pre-race drop of the green flag scheduled for shortly after 3:30. Cars are just getting out onto the racetrack, but they're just getting up to speed, so we'll squeeze in another break before we get those up to speed laps and begin, truthfully, the round 1 for Group B and their qualifying session. Another 20 minutes upcoming. Chat poll currently at 69 votes. And again, that voting poll will close at the end of Stage 2. I don't think the leader is going to change off of there. Who you think is going to be the best qualifier of Byron, Larson, SVG, and Zilisch. Zilisch, SVG will both make it to round 2. William Byron did not. He was the first driver out. Kyle Larson is in Group B and is out there on the track right now. I wonder if Chastain's going to take the SVG approach and just kind of wait for everybody else to clear off the track before making his lap. Nobody has started yet. Once again, Fast 5 from Group A. Daniel Suarez, Shane Van Gisbergen, AJ Allmendinger, Ty Gibbs, and Conor Zilisch. Who will be the Fast 5 in Group B? Carson Hocevar was the quickest in final practice of the 2 practice sessions from Group B. Ryan Blaney was just behind him, and then Kyle Larson were the top 3. Kyle Busch was 4th. Chase Elliott was up in the top 10, so maybe it'll be the same 5, maybe it'll be a different 5.
as Kyle Larson comes up the main straight.
Ooh.
Now, the last car to leave pit road among this group was Ross Chastain. Let everybody get a good gap out ahead of him. Michael McDowell edging his way into the top of the group based on our predictive timing in the 71, and we know what a good road racer he is. Kyle Busch is on a good lap too.
But the thing the Hocevar brings to a road course like this is being aggressive and being able to push the car really, really deep into the corners and slide the car. I mean, he's the guy that could potentially be in a position to put himself up towards the front of the field. And we might be saying that a lot as we go through this season, Mike.
Kyle Larson up to third. Blaney, 12th when he ran, now 13th. Here's Hamlin, fourth fastest. And Kyle Busch, third. Kyle Busch, I told you that was a good lap. Austin Dillon, 15th. Hocevar, top of the board. How about that? That's a good way to quiet up the old noise.
Well, as you know, Clint,
That's the fastest time, too.
you can't put speed and aggression into somebody. You can take some of that out of those guys, but well, he's got both of those things, and being able to have him learn and take some of that out of him is always easier than trying to put speed into somebody.
Did you have him on your bingo card on the top of this list?
I told you before we started that who's going to be the surprise, and that is definitely the biggest surprise that we've had so far.
Yes. All right, Chastain, the last of this first group to finish up his lap. You've also got Reddick, Wallace, and Herbst, all the 2311 cars out there together. Big slide. Chastain comes and finishes up his lap in sixth. Yeah, I think it had to have been a little bit more than that. He was on the 2311 cars now coming to start their lap around 17, and they're coming to the timing line now. I'm very impressed with the talent that we have with these drivers. This field is this close.
Well, let's not forget this, guys. As we watch Reddick come around to make his lap up the front straightaway, Denny Hamlin was nowhere in sight in practice, and they tuned that thing up for qualifying, and now he's sitting seventh quick. And we know Reddick has been really good in the past.
His teammate Bubba Wallace is right behind him, trying to follow him through this lap. Missed the corner a little bit at the top of the hill, Kev.
Yeah, and you hear him feather that throttle through turn two. That's really a corner that makes or breaks you on the speed part of things. And you see him a little out of sync in the S's right there, and the 23 is right there to capitalize on it. The only thing I don't like about being that close is just that front end aero sensitivity to make the cars tighter.
I like what you just said. It works, right, until he makes a mistake. You're not counting on him. You need him. That rabbit you talked about earlier. I want to chase a rabbit out there. Reddick's really good at this racetrack. If I'm Bubba Wallace and struggle a little bit, let's follow a guy. Use him as my gauge.
Yeah, and that 45 car has made a ton of mistakes this lap. You just saw him miss another corner right there.
And to your point, I think he's hurting Wallace now. Wallace is a lot of green here. Keep an eye on both of these cars.
Yeah, and I'm sure that Bubba Wallace didn't expect him to catch up by that much.
Christopher Bell and Chase Elliott have just started their laps as these drivers from 2311 finish up. Look at that. It worked. Wow. Reddick Wallace. Those 1-2. That is a lap. I told you it'd be early, low
38s.
And
Thank you, Reddick, for bailing me out of that.
what looked like mistakes were just the car on edge and floating around. He
What a plan.
making a ton of speed, apparently.
Great job, 2311. That, boy, you can put that down on paper, and it usually doesn't work.
And I thought that the way it looked to me like Bubba was catching
He
it.
did. I agree.
But he went slower.
Now, Riley Herbst was running right with them, but his time has been disallowed.
Uh-oh.
So here's Bell into 13 and 14.
Well, he's another one of those Toyotas, and we mentioned about Denny Hamlin and how these Toyotas not having the pace in practice, but obviously for qualifying, they were able to make adjustments and even probably just put their car in qualifying trim.
All right, Kevin, I'm going to put some pressure on you. We just heard the track's getting hotter. By all means, it ought to be slicker. It ought to be slower. We've got all my ringers, Van Gisbergen, Allmendinger, all those guys were in the first one. Why are these guys faster?
That's a great question, Clint.
No, I put it on you.
Yeah,
I couldn't answer it, so I thought you should try.
Yeah, and I think that whatever they did to their cars to go from race trim to qualifying trim is obviously adapted better. They made good adjustments to their cars from what they had in practice, but I think a little bit of that is probably the surprise from going from race trim to qualifying trim, and their pickup has just been more because even SVG, I mean, you heard him in practice talk about his car not driving very good in qualifying trim, but man, those 2311 guys nailed it, and it didn't look good.
Look at the overall performance of the whole overall, right? Most of the top 10 are coming from this second group. I don't know if the track's cleaner, maybe it was dirty in a section or something. Something's legit with that.
Larry? Yeah, I've just been comparing the data between Tyler Reddick and Bubba Wallace. This is something crew chiefs and engineers are looking at. One thing that I saw, Reddick had to play with the throttle a lot more, but two takeaways. In the latter part of the lap, over there in the turn 16, 17, 18 area, and through the S's, Reddick stayed in second gear a lot more than Bubba Wallace did.
Yeah, and I still think that Bubba wasn't expecting to get that close because I still think there was a ton of time to gain for Reddick through the S's. It was sloppy through the S's, but
He missed at the top of the hill, too.
yeah, I mean, from one all the way to the back straightaway, Bubba ran him down and was actually on the bumper, but I think it hurt Bubba being that close.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Now here's Carson Hocevar.
No.
On right now.
I've done that. I love it.
After his lap, he couldn't believe it.
Well,
I've done that.
and I think that even to the Reddick car, to the point of the way that it looked compared to the speed, I think that really shows you the driver's reaction inside the car, not knowing how fast that they went or where that puts them because of the fact that it doesn't feel great.
No, but it looked great on the stopwatch. Now, we talked about Austin Cindric. There's another big story. Chase Elliott, his qualifying lap, I believe he aborted it at the end of the lap because he is 36th. Not sure what's wrong there, but looked like he was keeping pace through most of that lap. And in the last couple of corners, something came undone.
It had to have, right? Had to slip up and aborted the lap.
Oh, all right. All he said on the radio, and I'm paraphrasing here, I screwed it up. Do we have time to run another lap? Yes, you do.
Yes.
They're going to let it cool down a bit. You got 9 more minutes.
I don't see that car going to the top, but maybe he could get, somewhere around a top 10 or something. It would be a huge gain for them. They're buried all the way back at 36.
All right, we'll be back to complete Group 2 qualifying here in Austin, Texas.
Mike Joy was laughing at the stormtroopers breakdancing as they were going to break still. So on our speed chart here, it shows Riley Herbst at the top of the grid on the raw feed. That is not accurate. The reason why he is up there is because he did run the fastest lap, but it was disallowed because he had cut the S's. So that lap is not technically number one. Tyler Reddick, Bubba Wallace, the two fastest here in Group B. Then you got Carson Hocevar, Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson, the Fast Five. We'll go through the top 20 when Amazon Prime comes back from a commercial break. late in qualifying here, less than 10 minutes to go. We'll stay right here to the finish of the stream. Space Cowgirl, thanks for tuning in. This is qualifying. And we're getting close to the end. Once again, NASCAR Xfinity Series race coverage will be in a little over an hour from now, 2:30 p.m. Eastern. And we will be live later tomorrow afternoon at 3 p.m. Eastern for the Cup Series race. All flag-to-flag coverage for you there. Our diecast showing. I haven't gotten that out during the stream. Didn't want to forget. I figured I'd show off a guy who won a bunch of road course races in his NASCAR Cup Series career, and that would be the driver of this Home Depot, number 20, Tony Stewart. This is actually a rookie car. You can see the stripes on the back of it. 1999 would have been the year. Pontiac on the nose. The only Pontiac diecast that I have. So, showing that one off for the stream today. Usually I try to highlight the road course drivers whenever we go to a road course. So here is one. And we will have more throughout the rest of the weekend during the Xfinity and Cup Series races as well. Here's AJ Allmendinger.
Myself trying to get us in a better direction. It's the lap at qualifying didn't feel good at all. So I was actually pleased with the speed. I think if I would have been able to hit the marks a little bit better, had more speed, but we definitely got a lot of work to do. We're falling off a lot on tire wear. You know, this tire's different. It's softer, so the wear kind of, I think if you miss a setup, you pay a big price for it. I think the cars that are better don't quite fall off. So it's like a small box that we got to work here and try to make the Celsius Chevy a little bit better and have a better day tomorrow.
Thanks for your time. A little more work to do, he says here for AJ Allmendinger. Guys?
Zane Smith on track. He has 2 Truck Series wins here, so finished 19th here last year in his only Cup appearance.
This is his first.
Little bit less than 6 minutes remaining on the clock. Tyler Reddick is fastest overall right now with a 98.08. Then you got Bubba Wallace second, Carson Hocevar third. Fastest from Group A, Daniel Suarez in fourth, and then Shane Van Gisbergen is fifth. Kyle Busch sixth, Kyle Larson seventh. Ross Chastain eighth, Todd Gilliland ninth, Denny Hamlin is in 10th. AJ Allmendinger in 11th, Ty Gibbs 12th, Conor Zilisch 13th, William Byron 14th, Michael McDowell 15th, Noah Gragson in 16th, Chase Briscoe 17th, Christopher Bell 18th, Alex Bowman 19th, Zane Smith 20th, and all they show right now on the leaderboard for Amazon Prime is the top 20, but that is better than the leaderboard we have here on the raw feed for NASCAR.com, which you see on our screen right here, right now. They did take Riley Herbst's lap time off the board. I'm sure he'll be back out there to try to run another qualifying lap, but I don't know if it's going to be quick enough to try to put himself higher on the leaderboard. We haven't seen anybody run a second lap that's improved over the first. Outside of Cindric, who made a mistake on his first lap, had a big improvement. Back in Group A, I'm sure Elliott will have an improvement as well. But even though it was a big improvement by way of how many seconds quicker it was because he aborted his lap, still wasn't great. As I believe he was only able to pass Cody Ware in that qualifying order. Chase Elliott is, as of right now, only ahead of Riley Herbst, whose lap was disallowed again because he cut the S's. About a 0.2 of a second difference between Reddick and Wallace at the top of the speed charts. 98.076 to the 1,000th of a second is the lap time for Reddick. Reddick won the pole for the inaugural COTA Cup Series race in 2021. And he has started inside the top 4 in all 4 races at Circuit of the Americas. He's one of only 3 drivers to have a top 10 finish in all 4 COTA road course races. And I think that Tyler Reddick is definitely going to be a threat to win here this weekend. Of the 9, road course ringers, I guess you would say, and AJ Allmendinger, Shane Van Gisbergen, Conor Zilisch this week, Tyler Reddick is the most accomplished road course racer in the NASCAR Cup Series. He has won more road course races than any other driver with the next-gen car specifically. I know Chase Elliott has more wins, but he has not won with the next-gen on a road course. Tyler Reddick has a few of them, including right here at COTA, when he started second and won in 2023. So Chase Elliott's back out on track to run this second lap yet again. Easily going to get to the timing line before the time expires. Got a little over 2 minutes to go. You're definitely going to want to leave pit road like right now if you are going to get out there and try to make another lap before the time is expired. Ryan Blaney back out on the racetrack again. He was 4th overall in second practice, but he's quite a ways down on the leaderboard for qualifying, currently 15th. With everybody out on the track right now, nobody is in the green on Reddick's lap time. After Toyotas were nowhere to be found in practice in the top 10, none of them were up there qualifying. Got quite a few. First, second, 10th, Denny Hamlin's up there. And Hamlin was outside the top 30 in his practice session. The second one specifically, so Hamlin picked up a ton. There's definitely a strategy there for Toyota. I don't know what it was, but they found something. And it worked. 1 minute to go in qualifying. Ross Chastain also out there on the racetrack. He's top 10, currently 8th. The only Trackhouse car in Group B. Down under 40 seconds. Definitely not going to be able to leave pit road and obviously get to the timing line now. It looks like there are 5 cars on track. Elliott, Chastain, Bell, Blaney, Stenhouse. Logano just wrapped his lap up. Nemechek's out there too. Hamlin's back out there. Quite a few of them are actually running another lap. Chase Elliott did jump up quite a bit. 3rd quickest. 98.36. After bailing on his first lap, he backs it up 3rd quickest on lap 2 for Chase Elliott. And even when we saw Cindric bail out of his lap earlier, nowhere near the lap time that Chase Elliott just put up. So that's a big jump. Went from potentially starting outside the top 30 to starting 3rd for tomorrow's race, assuming nobody tops him coming to the line. Bell just wrapped up his lap, and I believe he was the last car on the track that had to complete a lap. So, congratulations, Tyler Reddick, scoring the pole at Circuit of the Americas, a 2nd pole at the racetrack, first since 2021 with RCR. Bubba Wallace ends up in 2nd. It's an all 23-11 front row.
In his ear.
And here's a word with our pole sitter, Tyler Reddick.
Story. It's amazing that worked the way it.
1-2 for Team 2311. Tyler Reddick with his 2nd straight pole here. And Bubba Wallace gets.
I might be going to commercial break before we get that interview from Tyler Reddick. Nope, here it is.
It's going to be faster. And as the last 3 or 4 sections of the racetrack there, Reddick just made some time up and put up just a massive lap.
Well, I agree with it. With the mistakes that were, I call them mistakes. You can't call them mistakes. He's on the pole, but it enabled Bubba to get a little bit closer to him, and I think he almost got too close, and it cost him. Take it down to Josh.
Well, how about this? You got 2311 on the front row here at COTA. So talk to me about that lap and what you two were able to do out there.
Well, I was worried I screwed his lap up, but he was worried he screwed my lap up. But all in all, just man, I think today really it threw us for a loop. The pace was nowhere what we thought it was going to be, and everybody here on this 45 and everyone here at 2311 really had to go to work on our Toyota Camrys, and we made massive improvements, I think, from practice 1 to practice 2. Obviously, we didn't have like the fire off lap we were wanting, and then we're gonna have to go out there and find it right away. So just really glad the day went like it did. It's gonna be great track position for us tomorrow.
Bubba, for you, we know how hard you worked on road course racing. How important was that qualifying lap? You know, to be able to have him to follow behind and learn from during that lap.
Yeah, when we come to the road course races, we really, I think everybody in the Toyota camp leans on Tyler. So he does a great job of giving us the right information to chase sometimes. But I really thought I screwed his lap up. I got into turn 1 better, and then I was just kind of close. And I think if roles reverse, I'd be like, back up off me a little bit. Like, give me some room. But that's just how good he is. So just hats off to everybody at 2311, 45, 23 on the front row, getting Riley up to speed and everything. So I was way out in left field in practice. So we made some big gains on our Mobile 1 Toyota. Just have to keep finding. Now tomorrow's a different pace for me, racing and being aggressive and staying up front. That'll be the new challenge. But all in all, just continuing to get speed and getting more comfortable in these types of places is what it's all about. So all about the men and women at 2311 Racing.
I wonder who's going to live first into 1.
Me. I'll go ahead and get your gentleman's honor right there. Well, Tyler Reddick wins the pole, 2311 on the front row to start with Bubba Wallace up front next to him.
Great question from Tyler. First ever front row sweep for 2311 on all.
All right, we're going to go through the starting lineup for tomorrow's EchoPark Automotive Grand Prix at COTA. Tyler Reddick and Bubba Wallace, as you just heard from them both, 2311 locking out the front row for tomorrow's race. Second pole at the track for Tyler Reddick, trying to go for his second win as well. Chase Elliott with Carson Hocevar, 2 Chevys making up row number 2. Great performance last week. Obviously, Hocevar career best second place finish, and now he's starting up in row number 2 here this week. Daniel Suarez and Shane Van Gisbergen, 2 Trackhouse drivers in row 3. Row 4 for the 2 Kyles. The Kyle and Kyle show again, just like they were at Daytona in the 500. They're starting in the same row, this time more towards the front of the field. Row 4. Ross Chastain and Todd Gillen will make up row number 5, rounding out the top 10s. In row number 6, it'll be Denny Hamlin and AJ Allmendinger. In row 7, Ty Gibbs, Conor Zilisch, who will be making his Cup Series debut for Trackhouse tomorrow, and be on the pole for the Xfinity race coming up in a little bit here today. William Byron and Michael McDowell in row 8. Row number 9 for Noah Gragson and Chase Briscoe. Christopher Bell with Zane Smith in row number 10. So that locks out the front half of the field. The back half now, we got Alex Bowman, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. in row 11. Row number 12 for Joey Logano and Chris Buescher. Ryan Blaney, Brad Keselowski in row 13. Row 14 for Austin Dillon, Ryan Preece. Cole Custer, Justin Haley in row number 15. Behind them in row number 16 now. Waiting for it. Row number 16, Riley Herbst and Eric Jones. John Hunter Nemechek, Ty Dillon, row 17. Josh Berry, Austin Cindric, row 18. Cody Ware will bring up the rear of the field in row 19. That is your 37-car field for tomorrow's race. Again, our start time for that stream will be at 3 p.m. Eastern with our pre-race. The NASCAR Xfinity Series will go live for that here in a little bit. And that will be at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, about 1 hour from now, almost exactly 1 hour from now, we'll go live there. 32 likes on the stream. Be sure to hit the like button if you haven't done so yet. And again, we will be back very soon with our second stream of the day on our doubleheader Saturday coverage at Circuit of the Americas. Congratulations again to Tyler Reddick and 2311 Racing for locking out the front row here for this weekend's Cup Series race. See you guys in a little bit. We'll see if Zilisch can win it from the pole in the Xfinity Series. He's probably going to put on a show. Even if he doesn't, it'll be a show. Can't wait for that one. Can't wait to see you guys soon. Thanks for